Chapter 395. Duan Chun, the supervisor of the North County, had joined forces with Uzimo to cause trouble, which gave Leng Shiqi a headache. At this moment, Leng Shiqi made a sound of surprise. Only now did he realize that Qin Jianchen was not here. He asked, "Where is Qin Jianchen?" Xiao Cheng and the others paused for a moment. Qian Ming continued, "Sir, when Uzimo first came, Qin Jianchen fought with him, but he was seriously injured by Uzimo. During this time he was in seclusion to recuperate, so he did not come to welcome you." Leng Shiqi's face turned completely cold. Traces of killing intent filled the air, causing the temperature of the meeting hall to drop. Qian Ming saw this and said in a low voice, "Sir, we should not act rashly. After all, Uzimo has something on us." Leng Shiqi retracted his killing intent, and a cold smile appeared on his face. Uzimo Duanchun. Passed down the order. They immediately straightened their bodies and waited for Leng Shiqi to give the order. However, Leng Shiqi said, "Uzimo should know about my return soon. He must be waiting for me to make a move. From today onwards, have all the Dark Thunder Guards withdraw. Do not let anyone have anything on us. If Uzimo comes to ask for resources next time, do not fight. Give him as much as he wants." What? They were shocked when they heard this. They did not know what Leng Shiqi was trying to do. Guan Feihong, on the other hand, rolled his eyes and laughed sinisterly. He said, "This subordinate obeys." Leng Shiqi stood up and said, "From now on, I will go into seclusion. No matter what happens, I will endure it. Whatever they swallow now, I will make them spit it out twice as much in the future." As soon as he finished speaking, Leng Shiqi took a step forward, and his figure instantly vanished on the spot like a ghost. Qiao Cheng and Qiao Qian were a little confused. Qian Ming lowered his head thoughtfully. Guan Feihong said, "Do you think that Uzimo, a supervisor, dares to mess with us? With Sir's strength, it would not be difficult to quietly get rid of Uzimo. However, Sir's real opponent is the person behind Uzimo. Since Sir has already given the order, the most important thing for us to do while Sir is in seclusion is to endure." Qiao Qian and Guan Feihong looked at each other and then nodded solemnly. After Leng Shiqi returned to his room, he released dozens of goo worms to hide around his room to protect him. He waved his hand, sprinkled 500 mid-grade spirit stones into the formation's formation. And in an instant, rich heaven and earth spiritual chi quickly gather, the rich heaven and earth spiritual energy quickly, the spiritual energy of heaven and earth quickly, the entire room was filled the room. That was a mist with smoke completely condensed. Then Leng Shiqi sat cross-legged in the center of the yin and yang spirit gathering array and absorbed the spiritual energy into his body. His had come too quickly. Now what he needed most was to do his best to consolidate it. Then he divided his consciousness into two. While purifying his spiritual energy, he was also constantly deducing and fusing spiritual skills. Finally, Leng Shiqi raised his head and swallowed a fasting pill he found in the mulberry tree. From then on, he entered a state of seclusion. 11 days later, Leng Shiqi opened his eyes. At the same time, his eyes became brighter and brighter. He had also removed the soul-splitting technique. At this moment, his spiritual energy had become much purer. The reason he stopped was because the system's upgrade had been completed. Leng Shiqi opened the system with some anticipation. First of all, the system gave him the first impression that the interface was much more refined. He habitually opened his own information first. Name, Leng Shiqi Lu Xingji, Cultivation, Spirit Aperture Realm Level 5 Status, Peak Bloodline, Dark Shadow Clan Unknown Management Authority, 37% System Energy, 13%. System Coins, 1382. Leng Shiqi raised his eyebrows. There was an additional entry for System Energy in his information. His eyes narrowed as if he had thought of something. Then he took out a Level 4 spiritual sword from his mustard seed bracelet and sold it to the system. He received 168 system coins. Leng Shiqi's eyes were fixed on the words, System Energy. Sure enough, after he sold the Level 4 spiritual sword, the 13% behind the words suddenly flashed. However, the number did not change. At the same time, an inexplicable, undetectable energy appeared in his body. The energy was very weak, but it gave people a very strange feeling. It wasn't spiritual power, nor was it demonic aura or baleful aura. Leng Shiqi couldn't tell what kind of feeling it was because it disappeared in a flash. Leng Shiqi's eyes flashed. He sold the astral wood spiritual spear he used before to the system. Then he immediately closed his eyes and carefully sensed it. Sure enough, a strand of that strange energy appeared in his body again. Leng Shiqi now understood that the system energy was the energy that the system obtained after he sold the items to the system. Because he had 37% of the system's authority, a small part of the energy was transferred to him. Although he still didn't know what that power was, he was sure that it was something extraordinary. After figuring this out, Leng Shiqi opened his bag, map and system store. There were 6 more empty slots in his bag, which was a small surprise. The map system did not change much, but there was an additional marking function. As for the number of items in the system store, it increased from 4 to 8. After checking these subsidiary systems, Leng Shiqi looked forward to seeing if there were any changes to the lottery system. After he broke through to the spiritual pulse realm, there were no new lottery options. This time there should be. He clicked on the lottery page and there was finally an option called Advanced Lottery, which made Leng Shiqi secretly happy. However, when he saw the system coins required for the Advanced Lottery, he was a little shocked. The Advanced Lottery actually required 1,000 system coins. This was the same price as the Unlimited Lottery. However, Leng Shiqi immediately felt that the advantage of the Advanced Lottery over the Unlimited Lottery was that it was more stable. When he had the Unlimited Lottery before, he had gotten the beginner and intermediate prizes several times. It was really a loss. The Advanced Lottery would definitely give him the advanced prizes. Although he could not win a lot with a small amount, he would not lose money. Leng Shiqi wanted to try it twice, but before that he had something more important to do, which was to activate another subsidiary system. System upgrade successful. Administrator, please select the system you want to activate. Chapter 396. When Leng Shiqi saw the system prompt, he swiped down and 3 alternative subsidiary systems suddenly appeared in front of him. They were Mission System, Pet System, and Equipment System. Among these 3 subsidiary systems, Leng Shiqi could only choose to open one of them, so he began to carefully examine the 3 subsidiary systems. First was the Mission System. Missions were easy to understand. They were nothing more than missions issued by the system. After completing them, he would receive a certain reward. Leng Shiqi looked carefully and found that the mission system also contained many subcategories such as main missions, daily missions, random missions, travel missions, treasure hunting missions, and so on. It seemed to be quite rich. However, after thinking for a while, Leng Shiqi directly excluded the mission system. There were 2 reasons. First, the system's missions were more or less mandatory. If the mission was just to his liking, it would be fine. But if the mission issued by the system was not something he wanted to do, or if it was not his style of doing things, he would feel very uncomfortable. Of course, the most important thing was that he did not want to be bound by the system's missions. The second reason was that he was traumatized by it. Leng Shiqi remembered very clearly that when he was still on Blood Mist Island, he worked hard to complete the mission. What did he get in the end? A high-grade Mao pill. The heart-wrenching feeling at that time was still imprinted in his heart, leaving him with lingering fear. Therefore, he did not consider the mission system for the time being. Then he began to study the pet system. The pet system also had many small functions such as pet summoning, pet strengthening, pet upgrading, pet skills, pet equipment. There was a whole bunch of them. It was like a game to cheat money. Leng Shiqi looked at these words as if he could see the system coins flowing out. He did not need to think at all to know that each of these small functions must require a lot of system coins. In fact, Leng Shiqi was a little tempted because he now had something similar to a pet, the Goo King. He now only knew that the Goo King needed to devour all kinds of rare resources to advance. As for other methods to cultivate the Goo King, he did not know. Even Princess Carol, who cultivated the Goo King, did not know. If he opened the pet system, he could use the system's functions to cultivate the Goo King. Presumably, he would soon have a good combat power. For example, the purple feather on the Blood Mist Island was very convenient to use. Therefore, the pet system was on the Leng Shiqi's list of options. However, whether or not he would choose it would depend on the equipment system. Leng Shiqi then looked at the equipment system. This equipment system was a little different from what Leng Shiqi had imagined. At first, he thought that it was just a system that provided attributes and characteristics when placed in the grid. However, after looking at it for a while, he realized that it was actually a system for strengthening and upgrading equipment. Among the functions there were equipment strengthening, equipment refining, equipment recasting, equipment embedding, and so on. Seeing these words, Leng Shiqi's eyes lit up. Spiritual weapons could be said to be the most direct way to increase one's strength. He had several level 5 spiritual weapons on him. He even had the Devil Advent Battle Saber, a 6th grade spiritual weapon. and the Divine Gu Ring, a rank 7 treasure. If he activated the equipment system, some of the spiritual equipment that he usually used would be greatly enhanced. The Devil's Arrival Battle Saber might even be upgraded to Tier 7. He was really tempted. However, after looking at the pet system and the equipment system, he felt that the system was trying to trick him into topping up money. Whether it was the pet system or the equipment system, it obviously cost a lot of system coins. However, it could indeed increase his strength. The saying that one could become stronger by topping up money had become true. Leng Shiqi was not afraid of topping up money. As his strength and influence increased, he would be able to obtain more and more resources. It was not a big deal to spend all of it on the system. What he was most conflicted about now was which system to choose. To be honest, he wanted both systems, but he had to give up on one. The pet system was an extra help. The equipment system could strengthen weapons. Leng Shiqi fell into deep thought. After half an hour, Leng Shiqi gritted his teeth and made a decision. He decided to choose the pet system. There were 3 reasons. First of all, Leng Shiqi did not have a high demand for spiritual equipment. He had just obtained the Devil's Arrival Battle Saber and the Divine Gu Ring from the resources of the Gu God sect. These were enough for him to use for a long time. Secondly, no matter how powerful his spiritual equipment was, he was still one person. As the saying goes, 2 fists are no match for 4 hands. There were many times when he could not split himself. If he could cultivate a powerful pet, it could help him do a lot of things that others did not know about. Thirdly, after activating the pet system, Leng Shiqi did not only cultivate the Gu King as a pet. As long as he was willing to spend money, he could even cultivate several powerful pets at the same time. These were things that the spiritual equipment could not bring him. Therefore he made this decision. Then he said, I choose the pet system. Pet system activated. Open the pet space. Leng Shiqi saw a stream of light flash on the system interface. There was an additional pet option. He immediately opened the pet system and found that there were only 3 small functions: pet summon, pet bind, and pet upgrade. As for the rest, he was afraid that he would have to wait for the system to be upgraded again. Leng Shiqi first opened the pet summon page. There were 2 ways to summon pets: normal summon and advanced summon. Normal summon cost 500 system coins per summon. The potential of the summon pet would be between white, green, and blue. Advanced summon cost 3,000 system coins per summon. The potential of the pet would be between blue, purple, and gold. In other words, the worst pet that could be drawn from the advanced lottery would be a blue pet. Leng Shiqi's mouth twitched when he saw the price of the pet summon. The system was really cheating him. Fortunately, he already had the Gu King and did not need to summon pets. Therefore he clicked on the pet bind page. Now Leng Shiqi could only have 1 pet at most. He immediately summoned the Gu King and a system prompt appeared in front of his eyes. Discovered a purple pet. Bind? Leng Shiqi was a little surprised when he heard that the Gu King's potential was purple. Although the Gu King had the word king, it was only cultivated from many ordinary Gu worms. Moreover, the cultivation method was not very good. Leng Shiqi was slightly happy that it had a purple quality. This helped him save thousands of system coins. He immediately said, yes. Immediately, Leng Shiqi suddenly felt an inexplicable connection between himself and the Gu King. He could order the Gu King to do anything at any time. Even if he asked it to self-destruct now, it would not hesitate at all. Finally, Leng Shiqi looked at the pet upgrade option that he cared about the most. The reason why he chose the pet system was that he wanted to increase the Gu King's strength in a short period of time so that it could help him do something. The pet upgrade page was very simple. It showed that the Gu King's current level was a rank 1 monster. There were 2 ways to upgrade a pet. One was to feed it experience pills. There would be a special slot in the system shop for experience pills. The other was to follow the master and cultivate. When the master cultivated, the pet would share 10% of the experience. Of course, for Leng Shiqi there was a 3rd way. That was to let it eat all kinds of rare materials. Leng Shiqi thought about it and decided to use all 3 methods. Chapter 397. Leng Shiqi logged out of the system and took out all the resources he didn't need. They almost filled up his room. Then he divided the resources into 3 parts. He kept the most precious high-grade resources and prepared to give them to 9 Leaf. He didn't forget that he still owed half of the resources to Shenyang's sect. Originally, he planned to give 9 Leaf the resources of the big families in several cities. Although the quality of these people's resources was a bit low, there were a lot of them. However, Duan Chun and Yu Zimo intervened halfway, so there weren't many resources left. So Leng Shiqi had to keep some for himself. The rest was divided into two parts. One part was to be sold to the system, and the other part was to be eaten by the Goo King. Leng Shiqi waved his hand, and the large pile of resources in front of him suddenly disappeared into the world, turning into more than 6,000 system coins. Combined with what he had before, he now had 8,000 system coins. He opened the shop system again. After opening the pet system, the shop system had also changed. There were two sub-options, random and pet. Leng Shiqi clicked on the pet shop. There were two boxes, selling beginner pet experience pills and intermediate pet experience pills. The prices were 100 system coins and 300 system coins, respectively. Leng Shiqi frowned. He had quite a lot of system coins, but it was still far from enough to cover all his expenses. This was because he also wanted to open the map system. Just this alone would cost him 10,000 system coins. In addition, he had just activated the advanced lottery option, and he really wanted to try it out a few times. In this way he was really a little stretched. Leng Shiqi hesitated for a moment, then bought 10 beginner pet experience pills to see the effects. He fed one beginner pet experience pill to the Goo King. Then the Goo King's body flashed and its aura soared, instantly reaching the limit of a rank 1 monster. Leng Shiqi was delighted. It seemed that the beginner pet experience pill was quite effective. He fed it another pill and the Goo King's body began to swell. Its body grew 2 or 3 times bigger and it was already the size of a thumb. And it was already a second-ranked demonic beast. 2 basic pet experience pills had allowed the Goo King to advance to tier 2. Leng Shiqi couldn't help but smile. However, he couldn't smile after that. This was because after the Goo King was promoted to stage 2, the effect of the beginner pet experience pill was greatly reduced. Even after eating the remaining 8 pills, he still didn't advance. Leng Shiqi had no choice but to feed it the resources that he had prepared. After swallowing 30 to 40% of the resources, the Goo King finally showed signs of advancement. However, the Goo King had also fallen into a deep slumber because of this. It seemed that the qualitative change between rank 2 and rank 3 still required a slow evolution. Leng Shiqi placed the Goo King into the pet slot. Then he looked at the remaining 7,000 system coins and decided to try the advanced lottery draw twice. As for the remaining 5,000 gold coins, he would save them for the time being. Not only would he be able to prepare for the opening of the entire map, but he would also be able to purchase items from the random shop at any time. He clicked on the lottery page and immediately clicked on the advanced lottery draw twice. A dazzling light flashed and 2 things appeared in front of him. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the advanced prize, Supreme Grade Sharp Spear Talisman. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the advanced prize, Soaring Feather. Leng Shiqi picked up the 2 items. The Supreme Grade Sharp Spear Talisman was a piece of purple gold talisman paper. It was a kind of item that strengthened spiritual weapons. After using it, it could greatly increase the sharpness of the spiritual weapon. He immediately took out the Inked Jade Sword and the Demon's Arrival Battle Saber. These were the 2 spiritual weapons that he used most frequently and were also the strongest. He looked at the Inked Jade Sword and then looked at the Demon's Arrival Battle Saber. After thinking for a while, he still felt that the Supreme Grade Sharp Spear Talisman was more suitable for the Inked Jade Sword. The Demon's Arrival Battle Saber was already an upper grade stage 6 spiritual weapon. Even if he used the Supreme Grade Sharp Spear Talisman on it, it wouldn't be able to advance to stage 7. At most, it would just be icing on the cake. This was because spiritual weapons above stage 7 didn't just need to be sharp and tough. They also needed to have their spirituality activated. Therefore, it was more suitable to use it on the Inked Jade Sword. Leng Shiqi placed the Supreme Grade Sharp Spear Talisman on the Inked Jade Sword. In a split second, the Inked Jade Sword released rays of purple and gold light. The sword body also started to tremble in his hand. Traces of sharpness constantly assaulted his face, causing Leng Shiqi to feel waves of pain on his face. After a moment, the Inked Jade Sword suddenly screeched. The light on the sword body suddenly converged. The Inked Jade Sword actually advanced to stage 6 spiritual weapon. Leng Shiqi was surprised and happy. He held the Inked Jade Sword and felt the sharpness on it. He couldn't help but smile. Although he didn't choose to activate the equipment system, he used the lottery to advance the Inked Jade Sword. Now he had 2 stage 6 spiritual weapons. This was something that normal spirit aperture stage cultivators wouldn't even dare to think about. He didn't have to worry about spiritual weapons for a short period of time. He was also a little glad that he chose the pet system. Putting away the Inked Jade Sword, Leng Shiqi picked up the pure white feather beside it. This was the Soaring Feather. It was a tool used to strengthen wings. Unfortunately, Leng Shiqi didn't have wings. Although he had some soaring sky goo that could allow him to stay in the air for a short period of time, they weren't real wings. Thus he could only leave the soaring feather to collect dust. In the end, the only thing Leng Shiqi had to do was to enter the infinite lottery again. Every time the system was upgraded, it would give Leng Shiqi a free unlimited lottery draw. However, for the current Leng Shiqi, he wasn't looking forward to the unlimited lottery draw. After all, he had suffered a lot in it. Thus, Leng Shiqi casually clicked on the infinite lottery. The system prompt appeared. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the intermediate prize, Desert Golden Sand. Seeing that he only got the intermediate prize, Leng Shiqi thought to himself, as expected. As for the Desert Golden Sand, it was a pretty good refining material. He directly took it to the bottom of his chest. At this point, after the system upgraded, he had done all the things he needed to do. He had also done all the research he needed to do. After Leng Shiqi tidied up, he once again entered a state of cultivation. However, what he didn't know was that in these 2 days, Uzimo brought people to Dark Thunder Manor in Lanqi City. Uzimo had long known that Leng Shiqi had returned. He thought that Leng Shiqi would be furious and go to settle accounts with him. He even prepared how to deal with it and how to suppress Leng Shiqi. But what Uzimo didn't expect was that he didn't see Leng Shiqi's shadow even after waiting for several days in his own territory. He asked around and found out that Leng Shiqi actually went into closed-door cultivation after returning. This made Uzimo a little surprised and doubtful. Uzimo had swallowed half of Leng Shiqi's resources and even injured Qin Jianqian. How could Leng Shiqi tolerate this? As far as he knew, Leng Shiqi was absolutely not like this. Gradually, it was Uzimo who couldn't sit still anymore. He hesitated for a day or two before deciding to personally come to Lanqi City to test things out. Chapter 398. Uzimo led a few Dark Lightning emissaries into Dark Thunder Manor, waving his hand to summon a few Dark Lightning guards. He narrowed his eyes and asked, "Where's your supervisor, Lu Xingji? Call him out." Uzimo's attitude was extremely arrogant. He was on the same level as Leng Shiqi, but he had crossed the jurisdiction of Dark Thunder Manor without permission. He had even specifically asked to see Leng Shiqi. This kind of behavior could be said to be condescending. And the reason he did this was to provoke Leng Shiqi. It would be best if Leng Shiqi could take the initiative to attack him. Then he would have another weakness in his hands, and he would definitely be able to control Leng Shiqi. However, the Dark Lightning guard in front of him said expressionlessly, "Lord Lu is in seclusion and is not receiving guests." This Dark Lightning guard was actually an assassin from Bloodcloak Pavilion, so he naturally wouldn't give Uzimo any face. Seclusion? What seclusion? Call him out. Uzimo directly roared. At this time, Guan Feihong, Qiao Qian and the other Dark Lightning emissaries heard the commotion and hurried over. Guan Feihong revealed a kind smile, stepped forward and cupped his fists. "So Lord Yu has arrived. Please come in." Uzimo stared at Guan Feihong. He hadn't seen Guan Feihong the last time he came. He heard that Leng Shiqi had brought Guan Feihong to Zhulu. Now it seemed that this Guan Feihong wasn't easy to deal with. Uzimo said sternly, "You're not worthy to speak to me. Call Lu Xingji out." Lord Lu is already in seclusion. He said that everything in Dark Thunder Manor will be managed by me, so this one can more or less make some decisions. You can really make decisions? Uzimo's eyes flashed with a suspicious look. This one can make decisions on ordinary matters. Guan Feihong didn't say too much. Uzimo snorted. "What I'm about to say isn't ordinary. Since you can't make decisions, you should call Lu Xingji out." Guan Feihong's smile did not diminish in the slightest. He said, "Sir also said that if something big happens we should put it aside first and deal with it after he comes out of seclusion." Uzimo's face turned gloomy. "You mean Lu Xingji won't come out to see me? Sir Yu, please don't make things difficult for me." Guan Feihong's smile became even more amiable. But Uzimo said, "What if I insist on making things difficult for you?" Guan Feihong smiled and said, "Lord Yu must be joking. Why would Lord Yu bother with us subordinates?" The more Uzimo talked with Guan Feihong, the more he felt that the man was slippery. What Guan Feihong meant was that if he made things difficult for the Dark Lightning envoys he would lose his status. However, if he didn't make things difficult for them, it would be equivalent to slapping his own face. Suddenly Uzimo laughed. "Haha, this envoy was just joking with you all. Why take it so seriously?" "Ha!" Qiu Cheng and the others also laughed, but their laughter was extremely awkward. Guan Feihong waved his arm and said, "Please come inside for a chat." Yuzimo didn't say anything and went straight into the meeting hall. When he saw the jade chair in the main seat, he sneered in his heart. He secretly thought that Leng Shiqi really knew how to enjoy life. Then he sat down on the jade chair with a look of enjoyment on his face. Guan Feihong was still able to maintain his smile, but the faces of the others fell. Yuzimo patted the chair and said, "Oh, this chair is really good. Only someone as rich as Lord Lu can afford to sit on it." Speaking of this, Yuzimo suddenly changed the topic. "Unfortunately, this envoy's purse is shy. Someone come." At this time, Guan Feihong suddenly shouted. Yuzimo was slightly surprised and secretly became vigilant. He thought that Leng Shiqi had set a trap. But then, a group of people carried dozens of large wooden boxes to the door of the meeting hall. Guan Feihong pointed to the boxes and said, "Lord Yu, these things are the offerings that the various great clans have handed over this month. Half of them are here. Please accept them." Yuzimo didn't show any expression of joy. Instead, his expression became serious. His purpose in coming here was to anger Leng Shiqi, including these dark lightning envoys. But now, not only was the other party not angry, but they were also offering up so many resources. He immediately thought of Leng Shiqi's intention, and that was to delay. But Yuzimo didn't want to delay. He looked at the boxes and said angrily, "This is just a little bit of resources? Are you trying to fool me? Lord Yu, half of the offerings are here. If Lord Yu doesn't believe me, I can have someone bring the accounts." "Half?" Yuzimo smiled darkly. "Who told you that I wanted half? From today onwards you will give me 70%. "What? 70%? Qiao Qian and the others were shocked and angry. Even Guan Feihong's smile faded a little. He could see that Yuzimo had come here to cause trouble. His goal was to force Leng Shiqi out. Guan Feihong even guessed that all of this was supported by Duan Chun. Although Leng Shiqi had told him to give Yuzimo as much as he wanted before he went into seclusion, this time he had given him 70%. What about next time? What about next time? In the end, if Yuzimo took it all, would they give it to him or not? Just as Guan Feihong didn't know how to respond, a voice sounded. "Don't even think about it." The voice sounded very calm, but it was filled with an unquestionable tone. Everyone looked at the door. At this time, there stood a figure dressed in black holding a long sword. It was Qin Jianshan. And his cultivation was at the Spirit Aperture Realm. Qin Jianshan's appearance at the Spirit Aperture Realm was beyond everyone's expectations. Even Guan Feihong and the other Dark Lightning envoys were shocked. Qin Jianshan had been seriously injured by Yuzimo some time ago and should still be recovering. How could he have broken through to the Spirit Aperture Realm? Of course, the most shocked person was Yuzimo. He remembered clearly that when he first came here, Qin Jianshan was the only one who had stopped him. At first, Yuzimo didn't put Qin Jianshan, who was at the 9th level of the Spirit Aperture Realm, in his eyes. After all, he was at the 6th level of the Spirit Aperture Realm. But Qin Jianshan's sword was too fast. It was so fast that it was strange. It was so fast that Yuzimo felt threatened. Therefore, Yuzimo had no choice but to take it seriously, which was why he had seriously injured Qin Jianshan. However, in just a month, Qin Jianshan had not only recovered from his injuries, but his cultivation had also broken through to the Spirit Aperture Realm. How could Yuzimo not be shocked? Qin Jianshan gripped the hilt of his sword tightly and said, "Thanks to you, my cultivation has improved. I don't know if you can still seriously injure me today." Chapter 399. Yuzimo opened his mouth to say something, but Qin Jianshan's sword had already arrived. The others didn't even see when Qin Jianshan's sword had struck. They only saw the black sword light, which was as thin as a strand of hair, arrive in front of Yuzimo. Yuzimo hastily used his spirit armor, and at the same time, a sword appeared in his hand. The sword was covered in blue light, and a blue sword light was slashed out like a waterfall. However, Qin Jianshan's sword easily pierced through the blue waterfall and tore apart Yuzimo's spirit armor. When the tip of the sword was about to pierce Yuzimo's heart, he hurriedly punched out. A pair of gloves covered his fist, which bloomed with a dense spirit light, greeted the attack. With an ear-piercing sound of collision, Yuzimo's body knocked over the jade chair, and he was forced back 8 steps. Qin Jianshan, on the other hand, was only forced back 3 steps. Yuzimo's fists were still trembling slightly, and 2 cracks had appeared on his gloves. His heart was filled with shock, anger, hatred, and even a bit of shame and annoyance. He was at the 6th level of the Spirit Aperture Realm, but he had actually lost to Qin Jianshan, who had just entered the Spirit Aperture Realm. Even if Qin Jianshan's attack had been very sudden, It shouldn't have been like this. This could only mean that Qin Jianxin's strength was very strong. However, for Qin Jianxin, being able to force Uzimo back a few steps was already his limit. Moreover, he could only use that sword technique a few times. If he were to fight Uzimo head-on, he didn't have much confidence. However, Qin Jianxin still stared coldly at Uzimo, as if he would fight him to the death. At this time, the 3 Dark Lightning envoys who had followed Uzimo finally reacted, but Qian Ming, Qiu Qing and the others stepped forward to block them. The atmosphere in the meeting room instantly became tense. Although Uzimo was surprised in his heart, he thought about it for a moment and became happy instead. He immediately shouted, "How bold of you! You dare to offend your superior? Where are the rules of the Dark Lightning Guard?" "Gu Xiaoping. I am here." A Dark Lightning envoy behind Uzimo replied. "Offending your superior? What is the punishment?" "According to the rules of the Dark Thunder Guards, cripple his cultivation and send him to the death cell." Uzimo sneered as he looked at Qin Jianxin. "Last time, I didn't pursue the matter because you were seriously injured. This time you actually dared to attack me in public. You really haven't changed." Guan Feihong also felt that Qin Jianxin was being a little impulsive, which gave Uzimo another opportunity to use against him. However, he didn't blame Qin Jianxin. When Leng Shiqi explained the matter, Qin Jianxin wasn't present. Everyone knew that he was recuperating, so they didn't disturb him. Moreover, Qin Jianxin was now in the Spirit Aperture realm. If he was in the Blood Cloak Pavilion, he would be a silver-striped Blood Cloak assassin, which was 1 level higher than Guan Feihong. Even if Qin Jianxin wanted to blame him, he had no right to do so. Qin Jianxin did not answer Uzimo, but the fighting spirit in his eyes grew stronger and stronger. Uzimo also frowned. He had fought with Qin Jianxin twice, and he knew very well that if he wanted to take down Qin Jianxin, he would have to use his trump card. If he was not careful, he might end up getting injured. But if he didn't make a move, wouldn't he lose face by saying such big words? The Dark Thunder manner of Mistchi City was really strange. With the old fox Guan Feihong and the stubborn madman Qin Jianxin, he felt a bit of a headache. 70%. 70% it is. At this time Guan Feihong shouted. He said to Uzimo, "Lord Yu, I will send someone to deliver 70% of the resources to your manor." Guan Feihong's timely words gave Uzimo a way out of the embarrassing situation. He nodded his head with satisfaction and said, "Well, it seems you have a clear view of the situation. In that case, I will not pursue Qin Jianxin's offense. I still have important matters to attend to, so I will take my leave. Alright, I will be back at this time next month." Ah. After Uzimo left Dark Thunder Manor with a smile, everyone's face was gloomy. Especially Qiao Qian and Qiu Qing. They had never suffered such humiliation before. They only felt that their hearts were filled with unwillingness. Qin Jianxin, who had always been a man of few words, said at this time, "I am still too weak." It was unknown whether he was saying this to himself or to everyone else. After he finished speaking, he strode away like a meteor. The remaining few people, except for Guan Feihong, secretly clenched their fists. After this, the entire Dark Thunder Manor of Mistchi City fell into silence. Apart from the tasks that needed to be completed, everyone threw themselves into cultivating crazily. Time passed in the blink of an eye. 3 months later, Leng Shiqi finally pushed open the door to his room. The biggest difference between the current Leng Shiqi and the one from 3 months ago was that he was much calmer. His eyes were as calm and tranquil as an ancient well, but under the surface of the water, it seemed to have the power to set off huge waves at any time. Leng Shiqi walked out of his room and saw the long-awaited sunlight. He couldn't help but squint his eyes for a while. Wei Guan, who had been waiting here, immediately ran over and bowed. "Congratulations on coming out of seclusion, Lord." Leng Shiqi nodded lightly and said, "Prepare some food for me first." "Yes." Wei Guan left in a jog, while Leng Shiqi casually strolled around his courtyard. Speaking of which, he seemed to have never walked around his courtyard before. After walking around like this for a while, he felt comfortable all over. Not long after, Guan Feihong, Qin Jianxin, and the other 4 Dark Thunder envoys all came to the courtyard. Leng Shiqi saw that Qin Jianxin's cultivation was actually at the Spirit Aperture realm and couldn't help but be a little surprised. However, this surprise was immediately replaced by joy. Qin Jianxin's battle strength far exceeded that of other cultivators of the same level. Although he was only at the first level of the Spirit Aperture realm, he could definitely fight against a 3rd-level cultivator. This could be considered a great help. Leng Shiqi scanned everyone and discovered that their cultivation had improved by quite a bit. Qiu Qing and Qian Ming were both at the peak of the 6th level of the Spirit Aperture Realm and could break through to the 7th level at any time. The one with the greatest improvement was still Qiao Qian. Leng Shiqi remembered that when he first came to Lanqi City, Qiao Qian had just broken through to the Spirit Aperture Realm. Now, only half a year had passed and he was already at the 3rd level of the Spirit Aperture Realm. With his youth and aptitude he could indeed be called a genius. As for Leng Shiqi himself, after 3 months of closed-door cultivation, his cultivation was still at the 5th level of the Spirit Aperture Realm. However, the spiritual energy in his body was abnormally dense and pure. Moreover, his strength was much stronger than 3 months ago. However, he didn't know how strong he was now, so he had to find someone to test it out. The few people first congratulated Leng Shiqi, then Guan Feihong began to talk about serious matters. He first talked about Yu Zimo's arrogance in the past 3 months, then said, "Sir, in 2 days it will be time to submit the offerings. I'm afraid Yu Zimo will come again." When Leng Shiqi heard this he muttered, "Just in time to practice. Qiu Qing, go and send a message to Sir Yu Ruifeng." Chapter 400. 2 days later the courtyard of Dark Thunder Manor was filled with hundreds of large chests, almost filling up the entire courtyard. Leng Shiqi and a few of his Dark Thunder guards were having tea in the meeting room. Leng Shiqi had been eating fasting pills for the past 3 months, so the taste in his mouth was bitter. Now that he had a full meal and had some tea, his heart was filled with satisfaction. However, the others were not as relaxed. They also knew that Leng Shiqi was already at the 5th level of the Spirit Aperture Realm. Although they were shocked, they still couldn't feel happy. Leng Shiqi indeed had a high chance of beating Yu Zimo, but what about after that? Yu Zimo would definitely not let go of this and report it to Duan Chun, which would lead to even more trouble. So, how could they still be in the mood to drink tea? However, they all understood Leng Shiqi's temperament. Once he made a decision, no one could change it. Not long after, 4 people walked in from outside. Seeing how they walked in, those who didn't know would think that they were the masters of Dark Thunder Manor. Yu Zimo looked around at the chests in the courtyard and couldn't help but grin. These were all his. He raised his head and walked into the meeting room. He subconsciously wanted to sit on the jade chair, but then he realized that there was already someone sitting there. The moment he saw Leng Shiqi he was surprised and said, "Oh, isn't this Lord Lu?" He didn't get the news that Leng Shiqi had come out, but he could see that Leng Shiqi was already at the Spirit Aperture Realm. However, he couldn't determine which level of the Spirit Aperture Realm he was at, so he was really surprised. However, in his opinion, Leng Shiqi was only at the 1st level of the Spirit Aperture Realm. Leng Shiqi took a sip of tea, glanced at him and asked Guan Feihong, "Who is this guy?" Hearing this, Yu Zimo's expression immediately changed. How could Leng Shiqi not know him? Yet Leng Shiqi was asking someone else. This was clearly not putting him in his eyes. Guan Feihong even stood up and introduced him to Leng Shiqi. "Sir, this is also the supervisor of the Dark Thunder Guards, Yu Zimo, Sir Yu." Yu Zimo coldly stared at Guan Feihong, but Guan Feihong did not care at all. "Yu Zimo? Never heard of it," Leng Shiqi said softly. Even though his voice was soft, the weakest person present was at the Spirit Pulse realm. Everyone could hear him clearly. This time Yu Zimo did not get angry. He could see that Leng Shiqi was trying to intimidate him. However, he had come prepared. Yu Zimo sneered and said, "It is not easy to see Sir Lu. I have always wanted to see Sir Lu because I want to show you a few things." As he spoke, he took out a few thin booklets from his mustard seed bag and placed a small bundle on the table. Leng Shiqi only glanced at it and lost interest. It was definitely evidence of him getting rid of Gong Sun Bing and his subordinates. "Sir Lu, are you not interested in the things inside?" Yu Zimo saw that Leng Shiqi was not moved at all, so he said with a sinister smile, "AI." Suddenly Leng Shiqi let out a deep sigh. The sneer on Yu Zimo's face became even stronger. Leng Shiqi said, "Some people think they are smart. They are being used as pawns by others, but they are still complacent. Some people are about to die but they do not know. How pitiful. Who are you talking about?" Of course Yu Zimo could hear that Leng Shiqi was mocking him, so he immediately shouted. However, he did not notice that at this time, Guan Feihong and the others began to silently retreat. Leng Shiqi turned his head and looked directly at Yu Zimo. His eyes were as calm as water, but it was this calm gaze that made Yu Zimo feel a sense of crisis. Immediately Leng Shiqi pushed his palm forward. Suddenly the heaven and earth spiritual chi went berserk, and a rich dark golden brilliance appeared, condensing into a strange palm print more than 2 feet wide. The moment the palm print appeared, the power of the golden sun and the power of the underworld appeared at the same time. These two completely opposite powers were perfectly fused together by Leng Shiqi. Just the remnants of the aura that was released made Xiao Qian, an early-stage spirit pulse stage cultivator, pale. How could Yu Zimo have thought that Leng Shiqi would suddenly make a move? However, with his experience with Qin Jianxian, he knew that it was too late to dodge. Ignoring everything else, Yu Zimo's spiritual qi surged wildly, and on his right arm, sparkling spiritual veins and dozens of bright spiritual cavities appeared. His fist was covered with gloves, and when he punched out, dozens of huge fist shadows appeared. Each fist shadow was filled with a huge amount of power. However, these fist shadows were instantly shattered by Leng Shiqi's palm print. The palm print's power did not decrease at all, and continued to press forward. So strong. Yu Zimo was finally shocked. In the face of danger, he hurriedly took out a light green talisman. A trace of heartache flashed across his eyes, and he tore open the talisman. In an instant, the meeting hall emitted a green light, and the earth trembled. Branches as thick as buckets broke out of the ground, intertwining with each other and blocking in front of him. At the same time, he quickly retreated. Bang bang bang, only the sound of branches breaking could be heard. Finally, with a boom, the entire meeting hall, along with the branches, collapsed. The remaining power of Leng Shiqi's palm print made Yu Zimo's throat taste sweet, and he spat out a large mouthful of blood. Yu Zimo looked at the ruins of the meeting hall in horror, and even his mind was a little absent-minded. He was at the 6th level of the spirit aperture realm, and no matter where he went, he could be called an expert. However, in front of that palm print, he was as weak as a low-level spirit cultivator. He even used his own trump card, a 5th-level talisman, but in the end he was still seriously injured. Now there was only one thought in his mind. How strong is Lu Xingji? And this move used by Leng Shiqi was one of his gains in the past 3 months. He had combined the two 5th-level spirit techniques, the Great Golden Breaking Mountain Seal, and the Cold Underworld Palm Print, to form the current Great Yang Underworld Palm Print. Up to the Golden Sun, down to the 9 underworlds. The ultimate move created by the fusion of two 5th-level spirit techniques was comparable to a 6th-level spirit technique, and was even stronger than an ordinary 6th-level spirit technique. In addition, Leng Shiqi had several high-level cultivation techniques, and his own strength was far superior to Yu Zimo's. That was why he was able to injure Yu Zimo, who had used his trump card, in one move. Leng Shiqi had succeeded in one move, and he did not want to give Yu Zimo any chance to breathe. His eyes flashed with a colorful light. In Yu Zimo's eyes, Leng Shiqi had actually transformed into 4 giants that were hundreds of feet tall, like the legendary gods and demons, looking at him as if he was looking at ants. 5 Gods Spirit Intimidation Technique. Chapter 401. The 5 Gods Intimidation Technique was a high-level illusion technique that originated from the 5 Gods Flowing Light Technique. Leng Shiqi had already cultivated it to the realm of large success with his own comprehension. Moreover, with the support of his majestic mental energy and the divine Gu Ring, he had instantly caused Yu Zimo, a cultivator at the 6th level of the spirit aperture realm, to fall into the illusion. This was also the moment when Leng Shiqi caught Yu Zimo's mind off guard. Yu Zimo's mind was temporarily controlled by the 5 Gods Intimidation Technique. Leng Shiqi waved his arms and hundreds of sword chi rose behind him. The color of these sword chi was very strange. Every sword chi was red and blue, but the color was very light and looked a little translucent. Each of these sword chis was a combination of pulse-punching sword chis, frigid frost sword chis, and Xiaoyang sword chis. Every single sword chi was comparable to a 5th-tier spiritual skill, but Leng Shiqi had unleashed over 100 sword chis of the 3 severing sword. The sword chi whistled through the air and shot over. Gu Xiaoping, who had come with Yu Zimo, saw that Yu Zimo was in danger, but he was still in a daze. His expression changed and he flicked his fingers, causing a few finger attacks to hit Yu Zimo's body. Yu Zimo was attacked by Gu Xiaoping, but it helped him recover a trace of consciousness. He relied on this trace of consciousness to instantly burn his essence blood and finally get rid of the illusion of the 5 Gods Intimidation Technique. After burning his essence blood, Yu Zimo's battle strength was comparable to the late stage of the spirit aperture realm, but he did not fight back. Instead he chose to escape. Yu Zimo took out a spirit sword and the blue sword chi rolled back, shattering the sword chi of the 3 Gods Intimidation Technique one after another. However, there were too many sword chi. Even if Yu Zimo tried his best to dodge, there were still 20 to 30 sword chi of the 3 Gods Intimidation Technique that hit him. When the sword chi entered his body, Uzimo's body trembled, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. What shocked him even more was that after the strange sword chi entered his body, there were three completely different forces that burst out. One of them was as hot as fire, constantly burning his meridians and flesh. Another one was as cold as ice, freezing his body. The last one actually sealed his meridians, causing his spirit chi to not flow smoothly. What kind of sword chi was this? Uzimo's body was already in a mess and he couldn't move for a moment. His heart was extremely shaken and he was already regretting it. Even if he had information on Leng Shiqi, he did not expect Leng Shiqi's strength. Leng Shiqi is too strong. He was so powerful that he was terrified. Would he be able to control such a person? At this moment, Uzimo only wanted to hide at Duan Chun's place when he returned. All the plans against Leng Shiqi would be left to Duan Chun. There was nothing he could do. However, no matter how much he calculated, he did not consider one thing. That was Leng Shiqi's courage and Leng Shiqi's determination to kill him. Leng Shiqi pointed his finger and a blood-red lightning bolt as thick as an arm shot out. In the blink of an eye, it blasted Uzimo's head into pieces. Gu Xiaoping and the other two were instantly dumbfounded. Uzimo was dead? Uzimo was actually dead. They looked at Leng Shiqi's calm expression, and their eyes were about to pop out of their sockets. The three of them were terrified of Leng Shiqi's strength, and even more terrified of Leng Shiqi's madness. Leng Shiqi actually dared to kill Uzimo, who was also a supervisor. According to the rules of the Dark Thunder Guards, this was a life for a life, but he still did it. What made Gu Xiaoping and the other two even more terrified was that Leng Shiqi's gaze turned towards them. Leng Shiqi's gaze was still very calm. He looked at the three of them as if he was looking at three lifeless rocks. Run! Gu Xiaoping shouted, and then used all his strength to explode with the fastest speed in his life to escape Dark Thunder Manor. However, he had only taken 2 steps when he realized that he could no longer move. Gu Xiaoping looked down and saw that the ground was actually covered with spider webs, and the ground of the entire courtyard was like a swamp. Not only was it difficult for him to move, it was also slowly sinking him into it. This was the Bone Spirit Spider Web formation that Leng Shiqi created by combining the Gu Spirit Spider Web and the Hand of Earth. It was used to trap enemies. Not only Gu Xiaoping but the other two were the same. Leng Shiqi once again unleashed hundreds of triple extinction sword chi, and the sword chi fell like rain. Screams were heard and Gu Xiaoping and the other two were all dead. He secretly absorbed their remnant souls and frowned unhappily. A good meeting room was destroyed, what a pity. Leng Shiqi's subordinates, with the exception of Qin Jianchen, were all shocked as well. They were shocked by Leng Shiqi's strength, and even more shocked by Leng Shiqi's courage. Uzimo was a supervisor and he was killed just like that? They had all guessed that Leng Shiqi would attack, but they never thought that Leng Shiqi would kill. Guan Feihong was the first to wake up. What he was most worried about was what to do next. Since they had already been killed, they could not be revived. Leng Shiqi killed a supervisor and 3 Dark Lightning envoys. The supervisor of the North County, Duan Chun, would definitely not sit by and do nothing. The most important thing now was to think of a way to deal with Duan Chun. Guan Feihong was just about to speak when he saw that Leng Shiqi actually went to pick up Uzimo's personal mustard seed bag. Looking at his expression, he did not seem to care about this matter. Guan Feihong's mouth was open for a long time, but he could not say anything. He knew that Leng Shiqi was not an impulsive person. Since Leng Shiqi did this, he must have thought of what to do next. Right now, he only needed to listen to Leng Shiqi's orders. After picking up the mustard seed bag, Leng Shiqi asked, "Where is the Dark Lightning Manor under Uzimo's jurisdiction?" Guan Feihong immediately replied, "It's in Deer Marshal City, about 300 li from here." Leng Shiqi nodded. Qiu Qing, Qiao Qian and Qin Jianchen will stay behind and finish building the meeting hall. Old Guan and Chen Ming will come with me to Deer Marshal City. The 5 of them said in unison, "We obey." After that, Leng Shiqi brought Guan Feihong and Chen Ming to Deer Marshal City. As for the remaining people, Qin Jianchen went back to consolidate his cultivation. His role in Dark Lightning Manor was to use his martial strength to intimidate the weak. Qiao Qian immediately sent people to the courtyard to prepare to rebuild the meeting hall. As for Qiu Qing, he used all of his intelligence methods to seal up everything that happened today. 2 days later, Leng Shiqi and the other two arrived at Deer Marshal City. The scale of Deer Marshal City was slightly larger than Misty City. It was not as remote as Misty City, and there were more merchants coming and going. At this time, Leng Shiqi, Guan Feihong and Uzimo walked together to the entrance of Deer Marshal City's Dark Lightning Manor. Uzimo, put on an extremely ugly expression as he walked in. He opened his mouth and shouted, "Men, open the treasury's door." Chapter 402. Uzimo had 4 dark lightning envoys under him. Now that 3 of them were dead, only Lu Ziming was left in dark lightning manner. Lu Ziming was also a veteran. He didn't open the door to the treasury. Instead, he hurriedly ran over. However, when he saw Leng Shiqi and Guan Feihong beside Uzimo, he was stunned. He recognized Leng Shiqi. There was a portrait of Leng Shiqi in dark lightning manner's intelligence. Naturally, he knew that Leng Shiqi was the supervisor of Lanqi City. Lu Ziming also knew that his lord had been squeezing Leng Shiqi for a few months to obtain a large amount of resources. Now that the 2 of them came together, Lu Ziming was worried. Especially when he saw Uzimo's gloomy face, he guessed that his lord must have been defeated. Uzimo glanced at Lu Ziming and immediately shouted, "What are you waiting for?" Lu Ziming didn't dare to disobey the order. After a slight hesitation, he jogged towards the treasury. Leng Shiqi and Guan Feihong silently followed him. When they opened the treasury door, they saw a large amount of resources inside. More than 70 to 80% of them were transported from Leng Shiqi. However, Leng Shiqi felt that it was still too little. In the past few months, the resources that Uzimo pulled from him far exceeded what he had now. As for the rest, it must have gone into Duan Chun's pocket. Uzimo looked around and ordered, "Move all the resources to Lanqi City." Lu Ziming turned pale with fright when he heard that. All of them? Then what about the monthly salary of the Dark Lightning Guards under them next month? However, he didn't dare to ask in front of the 2 supervisors. He only looked deeply at Leng Shiqi and went to call for his men. Leng Shiqi said in a low voice, "I've said it before. No matter how much resources Uzimo took, he would return it with interest." Uzimo turned and smiled, "My lord is wise." This Uzimo was obviously Thousand Face in disguise. Leng Shiqi was never impulsive. After he came out of seclusion, he began to plan how to get rid of Uzimo and take back his resources. Killing Uzimo and his 3 subordinates and getting Thousand Face to impersonate Uzimo to bring back all the resources here was the first step. Thousand Faces asked, "Your Excellency, what should we do next?" Leng Shiqi and Thousand Faces knew very well that they were able to fool Lu Mingzi because as subordinates, they did not dare to spy on their superior's cultivation. That was why Thousand Face dared to pretend to be Uzimo, who was in the middle stage of the spirit aperture realm. However, this method was useless against Duan Chun, who could see through Thousand Faces' disguise with a single glance. Since that was the case, then don't let Duan Chun and Thousand Face encounter each other. Leng Shiqi said, "Immediately go and pacify the Dark Thunder Guards here. Then claim that you are recuperating in seclusion. I want to go to Duan Chun's place." "Your Excellency." Guan Feihong and Thousand Face both looked nervous. Duan Chun was a master in the gang spirit realm. He must have something on Leng Shiqi. Leng Shiqi was strong enough to kill Uzimo, but he was no match for Duan Chun. What should they do if Duan Chun used his strength to suppress them? "Don't worry." Leng Shiqi waved his hand and said, "How can I go to him without preparation? Besides, even if he is in the gang spirit realm, he may not be able to do anything to me." After that, Leng Shiqi left, and Guan Feihong was responsible for escorting the resources back to Lanqi City. However, both of them were thinking about Leng Shiqi's last words at the moment, and then they were both shocked. Speaking of Duan Chun as the supervisor of North County, the city he was in was the largest and most prosperous city in North County, Hanzhou City. Duan Chun had been living a very comfortable life for the past few months because most of the resources that Uzimo obtained from Leng Shiqi had been given to him, the great supervisor. Although there were not many high-level resources, there were a lot of them. As long as he had the resources in his hands, many things became simple. At this time, Duan Chun was sitting in the courtyard, looking at the mission information leisurely. North County was very peaceful recently, so he had nothing important to deal with, so he was relatively free. This was all thanks to Leng Shiqi. Leng Shiqi had killed the Xianyang sect, which could be regarded as a deterrent to those restless people in North County, so it was very quiet during this time. However, at this moment, a Dark Thunder Guard ran in quickly from outside, but he did not make any footsteps, because Duan Chun did not like to be disturbed by noise. After running in, the man bowed his head and said nothing. Duan Chun put down the information with a little displeasure and said, "Tell me what's the matter?" Only then did the Dark Thunder Guard speak. "Your Excellency, Supervisor Lu Xingji of Dark Thunder Mansion in Lanqi City wants to see you." Duan Chun's face stiffened slightly, thinking that he had heard wrongly. Lu Xingji. Duan Chun was a little surprised when he heard this because Yu Zimo had continuously sent him a lot of resources. He always thought that Leng Shiqi had already compromised. Then why did he come to see him today? However, he had to see him. After all, he still had to give him face, so he said, "Please go to the hall." "Yes, Your Excellency." Not long after, Leng Shiqi saw Duan Chun in the hall. After the two met, Leng Shiqi said, "Duan Chun, I'm here to thank you today." Duan Chun had just walked into the hall, and before one of his feet landed, he actually stopped when he heard these words. He looked at Leng Shiqi with a strange expression, thinking that he had heard wrongly. "What did you say? You didn't even hear that? Duan Chun, could it be that your eyesight has gone bad?" Leng Shiqi did not give the great supervisor any face and directly mocked him coldly. Duan Chun's face instantly darkened. It had been a long time since someone dared to speak to him like this, and this person was actually his subordinate. And it was a subordinate that he had blackmail on. He immediately shouted angrily, "Lu Xingji, who gave you the guts to speak to me like this? Believe it or not, I can punish you for the crime of disrespect right now." Leng Shiqi shook his head and said, "Duan Chun, you've been the great supervisor for so long, but you're still so stupid and greedy. It's not that I didn't give you any benefits for what I did in Lanqi City, but you went from bad to worse and joined forces with Yu Zimo to take away more than half of my resources. Don't you think about why I dared to do this?" Duan Chun sneered proudly and said, "You think I don't know? You once secretly went to find Sir Yu Ruifeng, and you must have given him a lot of benefits to get his acquiescence. But so what? You secretly killed Dark Thunder envoy Gong Sun Bing and more than 20 of his Dark Thunder guards, and I have conclusive evidence here. Once this matter is exposed, even Sir Yu can't protect you." Leng Shiqi suddenly sighed again. Duan Chun thought that he had given in, but who knew that Leng Shiqi actually asked him back, "Then why don't you think about it again? Why am I so unyielding and daring to be so presumptuous in front of you?" Chapter 403. Duan Chun's angry expression disappeared in an instant, and then his eyes flickered. He stared at Leng Shiqi carefully. Only then did he realize that Leng Shiqi's cultivation had reached the 5th level of the Spirit Aperture Realm. But Duan Chun clearly remembered that when he saw Leng Shiqi for the first time in the Western Wilderness City, he was only at the 5th level of the Spirit Aperture Realm. How long had it been? In about half a year, Leng Shiqi's cultivation had soared by a whole realm. This kind of strange cultivation speed was too inconceivable. Even Duan Chun, who had lived for decades and seen a lot, couldn't help but be surprised. He had to re-examine Leng Shiqi. In particular, he wanted to know what Leng Shiqi had experienced when he and Yu Ruifeng went to Zhulu country. Since they came back from Zhulu country, Yu Ruifeng didn't say a word about what happened there. Duan Chun only knew that the supervisor of South Commandery was dead, but he didn't know anything else. It seems that Lu Xingji had a fortuitous encounter in Zhulu country. However, the reason why Duan Chun dared to get benefits from Leng Shiqi was that he didn't have a strong background and experience. In Duan Chun's mind, Leng Shiqi's backer was his master Chu Hejing, who was in the realm of oneness of heaven and men. However, Chu Hejing was just a casual cultivator. Even if he was in the realm of oneness of heaven and men, he had almost the same weight as the supervisor. Moreover, he saw clearly that although Yu Ruifeng was very polite to Chu Hejing and gave him the position of supervisor of Leng Shiqi, he was just pretending. But in reality, Duan Chun was just pretending to be nice to Chu Hejing. That was why he dared to attack Leng Shiqi. At this moment, Leng Shiqi showed his cultivation at the 5th level of the Spirit Aperture Realm. Spirit Aperture Realm was nothing in Duan Chun's eyes, but the speed of Leng Shiqi's progress made him a little scared. If Leng Shiqi advanced to the Gang Spirit Realm in time, how should Duan Chun deal with it? So he couldn't fall out with Leng Shiqi now. Duan Chun made up his mind, squeezing out a smile on his face. He sat down and said, "Your cultivation has advanced so quickly, you must have had some opportunities in Zhulu country. Now that you're also in the Spirit Aperture Realm, it seems like you've secured your position as supervisor." Leng Shiqi had already guessed Duan Chun's thoughts when he was pondering, but he didn't give Duan Chun any face. Of course you can sit firmly in the position of supervisor. In the future you may even be able to become a great supervisor. The smile on Duan Chun's face suddenly disappeared. It was true that he did not want to fall out with Leng Shiqi, but it did not mean that he could tolerate Leng Shiqi's arrogance again and again. His voice was cold as he said, "So you've already set your sights on my position. Very good, very good. Then let me see if you're qualified. After Duan Chun finished speaking, he didn't do anything, but green spiritual energy suddenly burst out from his back. As soon as the spiritual energy appeared, the whole hall was instantly filled with violent spiritual energy. The green spiritual energy condensed into a long spear, roaring and thrusting straight. Duan Chun just wanted to let Leng Shiqi know that Gang Spirit Realm was not someone he could offend. Leng Shiqi was still sitting in the chair. He moved his hands together, and hundreds of silver-gray threads surged out from his hands. Those threads were like small snakes, constantly twisting and entangling the spiritual energy spear. Seeing this, Duan Chun's eyes flashed with a touch of disdain. However, those silver-gray threads did not collapse in an instant as he imagined, but tenaciously blocked the green spiritual spear. And the silver-gray threads also contained a penetrating cold force, which was constantly eroding his spiritual energy. In just 1 or 2 breaths, the spiritual energy spear was worn out. This move was the cold dark thousand silken hands that Leng Shiqi had created by fusing the dark cold dark hands and the silver silk thousand brushing hands. Although the cold thousand threads hands was not very powerful, it was the best weapon for entanglement. In particular, it could restrict the enemy's movement and erode the body with the cold force, hurting the enemy invisibly. Leng Shiqi easily resolved Duan Chun's attack, which made Duan Chun somewhat unable to sit still. Although Duan Chun just made a casual attack, his cultivation was at the 3rd level of Gang Spirit Realm. Apart from other things, Gang Spirit alone was dozens of times stronger than spiritual Qi. How could Leng Shiqi take it so easily? Moreover, Leng Shiqi didn't seem to use all his strength. This caused Duan Chun's old face to be put on the spot. He wanted to teach Leng Shiqi a lesson by relying on his high cultivation, but this was the result. Duan Chun's eyes became fierce. He formed a sword with his fingers, and then the torrential cyan sword gang swept over like a rolling river. The whole hall suddenly trembled. This time, Duan Chun didn't hold back at all. He used all his spiritual qi. Leng Shiqi couldn't help but become dignified, but he didn't panic. The devil arrival saber, which was full of pure devil qi, appeared in his hand. Then all the strength of his body gathered on the saber, and even his eyes were covered with dark devil qi. With a buzz, the whole space seemed to be frozen at this moment, and Duan Chun's boundless sword gang became extremely slow. Suddenly, a seemingly invisible saber light flashed away like a flash of the night flower. And this space was actually split into 2 like a broken mirror. All the cyan sword gang disappeared in an instant. Duan Chun's face immediately turned pale with fright, because he could feel that there was an invisible saber light that ignored his physical defense and directly cut into his consciousness. Ah! The invisible blade tore his primordial spirit, and the feeling was more painful than being tortured. Duan Chun couldn't help but wail. Duan Chun hurriedly took out a black pill from his mustard seed bag and swallowed it. It was a kind of pill that could nourish the primordial spirit. After swallowing the pill, Duan Chun finally felt much better. Immediately, he looked at Leng Shiqi with a strong sense of fear in his eyes. Leng Shiqi had mastered such a powerful and strange saber technique. When he was in pain just now, if Leng Shiqi continued to attack, it could even threaten his life. Just as Duan Chun was shocked, the whole hall was suddenly divided neatly from the middle into 2 halves and collapsed on both sides. Duan Chun's pupils shrank again. Leng Shiqi didn't attack again because the previous saber attack directly took away 80% of his strength. While Duan Chun was in a daze, he also quietly swallowed a few pills to recover his spiritual power. He secretly sighed that this saber technique consumed too much of his spiritual power. Not only did it empty his spiritual power, but it also consumed most of his mental power, which gave him a headache. However, the power of this saber attack was obvious. This saber attack was created by Leng Shiqi by combining the ephemeral epiphyllum and the void-slaying saber. It was a spiritual technique that cut the physical body and the primordial spirit. Ephemeral epiphyllum. Chapter 404. Boom. The collapse of the hall immediately attracted a large number of Dark Thunder Guards. They gathered quickly as if they were facing a formidable enemy. However, when they arrived, they didn't find any enemies. What surprised them was that the collapsed hall looked like it had been cut open from the middle by a knife. But they did not feel any knife intent just now. What on earth happened here? Back off! Duan Chun suddenly shouted. Although the crowd did not know why, they still obeyed and retreated. Duan Chun re-examined Leng Shiqi again. The more he looked at him, the more he found that he could not see through Leng Shiqi. His cultivation had soared at such a young age, but he still had such terrifying strength. No wonder he dared to come to him so unyieldingly. It turned out that his greatest reliance was his strength. If Leng Shiqi broke through to the gang spirit realm one day, would Duan Chun be able to defeat him? At this time, a question emerged in Duan Chun's mind. Who on earth was he? Duan Chun also began to doubt Leng Shiqi's identity. Putting everything else aside, just that strange saber move just now was definitely not something that a rogue cultivator could teach. After dismissing the crowd, Duan Chun said calmly, "It turns out that your strength is so strong. The power of this knife is no less than that of the gang spirit realm. You are really a young hero. But you have violated the taboo of the Dark Thunder Guards by attacking me. I can let this matter go, and I can also let bygones be bygones. In the future, you and I will mind our own business. How about that?" Duan Chun's words were tantamount to making a concession. But Leng Shiqi still shook his head. "As I said, I'm still very interested in the position of the great supervisor. Why don't you let me have a seat?" Duan Chun's face became gloomy again. He said in a low voice, "Lu Xingji, you have to know that even Lord Yu can't protect you for the crimes you have committed. And do you really think I'm afraid of you? Even if I kill you here today, I'm still the great supervisor of North County." Leng Shiqi ignored him after hearing this. Instead, he put away the Devil Advent Warblade and muttered softly, "Judging by the time, it should be about time." When Leng Shiqi said such a strange sentence, Duan Chun was a little stunned. Just as he was puzzled, a Dark Thunder Guard hurried over, running and shouting, Sir Li is here. Why are you panicking? Lord Li? Which Lord Li?" The man glanced at Leng Shiqi, then walked to Duan Chun's side and whispered, "It's Lord Yu's right-hand man, Lord Li Hong." Li Hong was here. Duan Chun was shocked. Li Hong was Yu Ruifeng's favorite man and Yu Ruifeng's adopted son. He also had the cultivation of gang spirit realm. According to rumors, Yu Ruifeng even intended to pass the position of patrol inspector to Li Hong. Therefore, Li Hong was not someone Duan Chun could afford to offend. But why would he suddenly come here? Duan Chun looked at Leng Shiqi suspiciously and decided to welcome Li Hong. Unexpectedly, Li Hong had already come in. Leng Shiqi and Duan Chun turned their heads at the same time. Li Hong's figure was relatively mediocre, but he was a capable and experienced man. He seemed to be in his 30s or 40s. As soon as Li Hong came in, he saw the collapsed hall and couldn't help but show a surprised look. His eyes moved back and forth between the two, and a strange light flashed in his eyes, but he didn't ask anything. He cupped his hands and said, "Sir Duan and Sir Lu are both here. It saves me a lot of trouble." Duan Chun frowned when he heard that. Li Hong actually addressed them as Lord. Although this was a polite form of address, Leng Shiqi, a supervisor, didn't deserve to be addressed this way in front of Li Hong, right? Vaguely, Duan Chun felt that things were not so simple. Then Li Hong took out a black gold scroll and slowly unfolded it. On the back of the scroll there was a word "dark" printed on it. Duan Chun was surprised when he saw the black gold scroll, and then he bowed and stood up. This was a transfer order that only the supervisor could use, and it was only used when something big happened. Li Hong cleared his throat and said, "Supervisor Lu Xingji of Lanqi City has made many outstanding achievements. He is now the supervisor of North County under the Dark Thunder Guards of West Wilderness Prefecture. The former supervisor Duan Chun will be transferred to South County." As soon as Li Hong finished speaking, Duan Chun suddenly turned to look at Leng Shiqi. His eyes were full of surprise, puzzlement, doubt and deep fear. He would never have guessed that Yu Ruifeng would let Leng Shiqi become the supervisor of the North County. The supervisor supervised the entire North County, covering dozens of cities. He had always been guarded by masters of Gang Spirit Realm. Now he let Leng Shiqi, a Gang Spirit Realm master, take over? How could he sit still? However, Duan Chun suddenly remembered that Leng Shiqi became the supervisor when he was in Spiritual Pulse Realm. Not only did he stabilize his position quickly, but he also made huge profits from it. At this moment he finally understood why Leng Shiqi was so tough and confident. He said again and again that he wanted to be the supervisor. It turned out that he had long known that Yu Ruifeng would appoint him as the supervisor of North County. For Duan Chun, although he was transferred, North County was the foundation of his many years of operation. Even though South County was richer than North County, it was equivalent to creating a lot of trouble for Duan Chun. However, no matter how unwilling he was in his heart, he did not dare to disobey Yu Ruifeng. Duan Chun's eyes flickered, and he asked Li Hong tentatively, "Lord Li, I have no objection to the transfer of South County. It's just that I'm used to using some people." Can I take them to South County? This? Li Hong was a little embarrassed. Then he looked at Leng Shiqi and said, Lord Lu, you can decide. Leng Shiqi did not hesitate and said, You can take them away, but you can't take anything. Duan Chun laughed in his heart when he heard this. He laughed at Leng Shiqi for being short-sighted. He only knew about resources but did not know the value of talents. Then he snorted coldly with an expressionless face, turned around and left. He thought, I'll transfer all the elites of North County. Let's see how you'll monitor North County. In fact, Leng Shiqi wanted Duan Chun to take away as many people as possible. This way he could arrange more blood-clothing pavilion assassins. After that, the few of them began to hand over their authority. At the same time, Lu Ziming was anxiously pacing around his room in Deer Marshall City. Ever since his lord Yu Zimo returned, he had been avoiding people. There were many things that could not be decided. The other 3 Dark Lightning emissaries had also disappeared. He had sent people to Misty Chi City to investigate, but they did not find anything. All of this was so strange that it was worth thinking about. After hesitating for a while, Lu Ziming resolutely went to the place where the information was transmitted. He wanted to report all his suspicions to the great supervisor, Duan Chun. Although he was acting on his own initiative and overstepping his authority, he had no other choice. However, when he arrived at the sound transmission array, an order came out from it. It was an order that shocked him to the core. Lu Ziming collapsed to the ground. He knew that they were finished. Chapter 405. In Hanzhou City's Dark Thunder Manor, Duan Chun went to the backyard to make preparations, while the Dark Thunder guards who were peeking nearby were stunned. Their immediate superior was changed just like that? To them it was like the sky had changed. On the other hand, Leng Shiqi smiled and chatted with Li Hong for a while. Li Hong was quite attentive towards Leng Shiqi. Every time he heard Yu Ruifeng mention Leng Shiqi, be it his expression or tone, he would be full of praise. But Li Hong had never felt jealous. He understood Yu Ruifeng very well. Someone who could make his adoptive father praise him must have some outstanding points. Seeing it today, it was indeed so. Although Li Hong did not see the battle between Leng Shiqi and Duan Chun, it was clear that the two of them had destroyed the discussion hall, while Leng Shiqi, who was at the Spirit Aperture Realm, was not injured at all. This was the embodiment of strength. But because the entire hall had collapsed, the two of them did not even have a place to sit. After exchanging some pleasantries, Li Hong took his leave and went back to report. Leng Shiqi stood in the middle of the ruins and shouted, Men! Several Dark Thunder guards nearby immediately trotted over. They lowered their posture and bowed one by one, saying, Sir, please give us your orders. Tidy up this place and find a room for me to rest. Yes, Lord, please follow me. A moment later, Leng Shiqi was brought into a luxurious room. This was the room that Duan Chun used to entertain important guests. Leng Shiqi closed the door and released goo worms nearby before recovering his spirit energy. At the same time, he smiled inwardly. Today's events were all part of his plan. On the day he came out of seclusion, he had asked Qiu Qing to send a message to Yu Ruifeng, saying that he had come out of seclusion and could directly send the transfer order to Hanzhou City. Leng Shiqi also knew that the person who came to announce the transfer order was Li Hong. From the western desolated city to Hanzhou City, it would take 3 to 4 days at normal speed. On the other hand, Leng Shiqi made a trip to Marshall Deer City to settle Yu Zimo's matter before returning to Hanzhou City. Judging from the time, he would arrive at Hanzhou City around the same time as Li Hong. To be on the safe side, Leng Shiqi even used his fate skill to check Li Hong's approximate location before entering Dark Thunder Manor to meet Duan Chun. With all these arrangements, Leng Shiqi finally stepped through the gates of Dark Thunder Manor. In addition, there were many reasons why he had a conflict with Duan Chun. Firstly, he wanted Duan Chun to be wary of his strength and even more wary of his potential. After all, Duan Chun did have something on Leng Shiqi. If he really exposed it, even if Yu Ruifeng favored him, he would not be able to avoid punishment. Therefore, he wanted to use this method to make Duan Chun worry so that he would not dare to expose the matter easily. For Leng Shiqi, the more time passed, the higher his status and strength would be, and the less effective Duan Chun's hold on him would be. Over time, Duan Chun would not be a threat to him. Secondly, Leng Shiqi also wanted to use Duan Chun to test his real strength. He had been in seclusion for 3 months, settling down for a long time, and deducing and integrating many spiritual skills through his spiritual force. Originally, he wanted to try his saber on Yu Zimo, but before he could use his full strength, Yu Zimo died. Therefore Leng Shiqi turned his attention to Duan Chun. Duan Chun's cultivation was at the third level of Gang Spirit Realm, which was not high among the great supervisors. The reason why he could be the great supervisor was his ability. After all, Dark Thunder Guards was not a military organization, but more inclined to investigation and intelligence. After a fight, Leng Shiqi generally knew that his limit was at the level of Gang Spirit Realm. With the cultivation of the fifth level of Spirit Aperture Realm, his strength was comparable to that of Gang Spirit Realm. As for the third reason why he wanted to fight with Duan Chun, it was to irritate Duan Chun. Now Duan Chun had made up his mind to take away all the elites in Dark Thunder Mansion, leaving Leng Shiqi as a commander without an army. However, he did not know that this was exactly what Leng Shiqi wanted to see. If Duan Chun did not take people away, how could he transfer people from Blood-Clothed Pavilion? Therefore he could kill 3 birds with 1 stone by fighting with Duan Chun. The news that Leng Shiqi was promoted to the Great Supervisor of North County was immediately transmitted to all the Dark Thunder Mansions in North County through the sound transmission formation. Anyone who got the news was shocked. Of course, for different people the reaction was different. For example, Lu Ziming knew that he was finished. Yu Zimo had moved a lot of resources from Leng Shiqi in the past few months, which could be said to have offended Leng Shiqi. But who would have thought that Leng Shiqi would become the Great Supervisor of North County in the blink of an eye? As the saying goes, those with a higher rank can crush people to death. There was no need to think too much. Soon, their dear Marshall City's Dark Thunder Manor would definitely face a great purge. The few people in Mistchi City did not have much of a reaction when they received the news because they already knew about it when Qiu Qing sent the news. However, they were also looking forward to it because Leng Shiqi's promotion meant that the position of the supervisor of Mistchi City would be vacant. Perhaps it would fall on their heads. In North County, there were a total of 6 Dark Thunder Mansions. Other than Hanzhou City, there were a total of 5 supervisors scattered around. Other than Mistchi City and Dear Marshall City, the other 3 supervisors were shocked when they received the news. They had obviously heard of the name, Lu Xingji, which was why they found it hard to believe. In fact, it had only been half a year since Leng Shiqi entered the Dark Thunder Guards. In half a year he had directly become the great supervisor. Not to mention that no one would be able to achieve this kind of promotion speed in the future, it was definitely unprecedented. The 3 of them tried their best to gather information about Leng Shiqi and found out that Leng Shiqi seemed to have fought with Duan Chun and destroyed the meeting hall. In the end, the 2 of them seemed to be evenly matched. A Spirit Aperture Realm Cultivator and a Spirit Astral Realm Cultivator were evenly matched? They also began to wonder about Leng Shiqi's background and strength. In addition, Leng Shiqi's position as the Great Supervisor was personally conferred by Yu Ruifeng, which meant that Leng Shiqi was highly regarded by Yu Ruifeng. The 3 of them did not dare to have any other thoughts and planned to go to Hanzhou City to meet the new Great Supervisor. At the same time, Leng Shiqi also sent a message to Qiu Qing and Yu Zimo, asking them to come to Hanzhou City. In Mistchi City's Dark Thunder Mansion, Qin Jianchen, Guan Feihong, Qiu Qing, and Xiao Qian arranged everything and set off together. Only Qin Jianchen and Guan Feihong knew that they might not have the chance to come to Mistchi City in the future. In Dear Marshall City's Dark Thunder Mansion, Yu Zimo, who had been recuperating for a few days, also came out and found Lu Ziming immediately. When he learned that Leng Shiqi had been promoted to the Great Supervisor, he pretended to be shocked and then rushed to Hanzhou City with Lu Ziming with a serious expression. Chapter 406. 3 days later, a brand new meeting hall was built in Hanzhou City's Dark Thunder Manor. At this moment, Leng Shiqi was sitting high up, and there were 4 people sitting in front of him. Apart from Yu Zimo, the other 3 were Pure Loyalty City's supervisor, Xin Yuanda, who was a rather old man. There was also Huijiang City's supervisor, Ruan Hongguang, who was a man dressed in martial attire. There was also Longyi City's supervisor, Jin Yuan, who was a young man with a smile. As for the Lanqi City's supervisor position, there was no one here. After the few of them exchanged greetings for a while, the atmosphere in the entire assembly hall became more and more solemn. Xin Yuanda and the other 2 all looked at Yu Zimo. They had also inquired about what Yu Zimo had done some time ago. They all sneered in their hearts, thinking that Yu Zimo really didn't know what was good for him. Today Leng Shiqi called them over not only to meet and explain the new rules, but also to use Yu Zimo to establish his power. Sure enough, Leng Shiqi quickly made things difficult for Yu Zimo. He said coldly, "Yu Zimo, I can let bygones be bygones for what you have done in the past, but you should show some sincerity. Yuzimo's face suddenly sank and he stammered, "Sir, previously in Dear Marshall City, this humble one has already handed over all the resources in the treasury. However, this humble one is willing to contribute all the resources collected in the future to Sir, and swear to be loyal to Sir forever." Not enough. Lung Shichi said these two words with an expressionless face. Yuzimo took a deep breath and a dagger suddenly appeared in his hand, and he ruthlessly stabbed it into his shoulder. He didn't use any spiritual energy to block it, nor did he suppress the wound, and blood flowed out freely. The bright red color immediately made the other three feel that it was very dazzling, and at the same time, they all felt a chill run down their backs. However, Lung Shichi still said, "Not enough." Yuzimo raised his hand, and his eyes stared straight at Lung Shichi, and he said in a deep voice, "Could it be that this humble one has to commit suicide here for Sir to be satisfied? That sounds like a good idea." Yuzimo couldn't bear it any longer and revealed a look of anger. The three inspectors beside him did not even dare to breathe loudly. It was obvious that Lung Shichi was using Yuzimo to establish his authority. Lung Shichi's eyes were filled with murderous intent. He raised one hand to the sky, and a dazzling golden light condensed into a small sun. As the blazing sun appeared in the sky, waves of sharp golden energy assaulted their faces, causing them to activate their protective spiritual armors one after another. Then the golden sun suddenly changed and a layer of green flames ignited on it. Those were not ordinary flames but poisonous flames. After the 6 yang poisonous fire palm merged with the glorious sun mysterious sun palm, it became the glorious sun poisonous sun palm. Lung Shichi shot out a palm, and the poisonous flame blazing sun rushed towards Yuzimo. Yuzimo knew something was wrong the moment Lung Shichi made his move. He turned around and started to run, but how could he run? In the blink of an eye, Yuzimo's body was completely submerged by the poisonous flame-blazing sun, and a thunderous roar resounded in the meeting hall. A strong poisonous flame raged, and a tyrannical power erupted. A part of the meeting hall that had just been built collapsed in an instant. When all the power dissipated, where was Yuzimo's figure? He had been directly turned into ashes by this move. Shen Yuanda, Ruan Hongguang and Jin Yuan all had their mouths wide open, and their eyes were filled with horror. No matter what, Yuzimo's cultivation was at the spirit aperture realm, and he had been killed by Lung Shichi in a single move. Moreover, even if Yuzimo had offended Lung Shichi, he was still an inspector. How could Lung Shichi dare to kill an inspector in public? Originally, they had only thought that Lung Shichi would use Yuzimo to beat them up, and Yuzimo would at most be reprimanded and given some benefits. However, they had never thought that Lung Shichi would kill Yuzimo in front of them. At this moment, they had experienced Lung Shichi's terrifying strength and iron fist. They also understood that today, Lung Shichi did not want to use Yuzimo to beat them up, but to use Yuzimo's blood as an example to others. Shen Yuanda was the first to react. He bowed deeply and said, "Your Excellency's strength is unprecedented. This humble one admires you." The other two immediately complimented him. Lung Shichi clapped his hands and revealed a harmless smile. He casually motioned for everyone to sit down, as if the one who had just killed someone was not him at all. After the four of them sat down, Lung Shichi said with a smile, "The three of you are all senior inspectors of the North County. I am the newly appointed inspector and I still need your support. Your Excellency is too polite. We will definitely follow your lead." "Yes, Your Excellency, please feel free to instruct this humble one in the future. It is this humble one's honor to be able to serve Your Excellency." The three of them nodded like they were pounding garlic and spoke eagerly. "Since all of you have said so, this envoy really does have a troublesome matter." Lung Shichi frowned and said, "You should also know that after the previous great inspector Duan Chun left, he took away most of the elites of Dark Thunder Manor. I am currently short of manpower here." Shen Yuanda immediately said, "Your Excellency, please rest assured. When this humble one returns, I will personally select 30 elite Dark Thunder guards and a Dark Thunder envoy for Your Excellency." This number was equivalent to 1/3 of his subordinates, and he said it so easily. Of course, Ruan Hongguang and Jin Yuan were not willing to fall behind. They also expressed that they would send a large number of elites over. Lung Shichi nodded in satisfaction and said, "You can rest assured that after a while, this envoy will also recruit some people for you. I will not let you suffer a loss." Shen Yuanda and the other two looked at each other. At this moment, they understood that Lung Shichi did not really want to borrow their people. Instead, he wanted to place Lung Shichi's own people in their subordinates. However, even if they knew, they did not dare to have any intention of disobeying. After all, Uzimo's bloodstains were still in front of them. They did not want to follow in Uzimo's footsteps. Since Leng Shichi's goal was achieved, they politely said a few words and sent the 3 people away. After the 3 people left, a figure suddenly appeared in the hall. It was Thousand Face. The Uzimo that Leng Shichi killed was naturally Thousand Face in disguise. Before the solar poisonous Yang Palm fell, he used the Hand of Earth to lure Thousand Face into the ground. However, under the cover of the dazzling light of the solar poisonous Yang Palm, Shin Yuenda and the other 2 did not notice. Leng Shichi asked Thousand Face to call Qin Jianshin and the others over and arrange a series of things. Chapter 407. In the following period of time, the Dark Thunder Guards in the North region underwent a huge change in personnel. Firstly, all the Dark Thunder envoys in the Mist Qi City's Dark Thunder Manor were transferred to Hanzhou City. These people were used to Leng Shichi, so they were all transferred over. As for the Mist Qi City, he directly transferred a silver-striped blood-clothed assassin and 4 black-striped blood-clothed assassins from the Blood Cloth Pavilion to oversee the city. From then on, the Mist Qi City's Dark Thunder Manor had completely become a small branch of the Blood Cloth Pavilion. The Deer Marshal City's Dark Thunder Manor was about the same. The high-level supervisors and Dark Thunder envoys were all replaced by assassins from the Blood Cloth Pavilion. As for the Dark Thunder Guards, a portion of them were transferred to Hanzhou City. At the same time, Leng Shichi also arranged for dozens of black-clothed assassins to enter Deer Marshal City. As for the remaining 3 Dark Thunder Manors, just as Leng Shichi had previously instructed, Leng Shichi had arranged for some black-clothed assassins and 1 black-striped blood-clothed assassin to monitor Shin Yuenda and the other 2 at all times. Very quickly, the entire North region was in the hands of Leng Shichi. With his Spirit Aperture Realm cultivation, no one dared to question or provoke him when he took the position of the head supervisor. This was because there were only 2 groups of people who dared to provoke him. One of them was the seniors in Hanzhou City's Dark Thunder Manor, but almost all of them were taken away by Duan Chun. The remaining few were quite old and had no other advantages other than experience, so they naturally couldn't cause any trouble. The other group was Shin Yuenda and the other 2. However, these 3 people were directly frightened by Leng Shichi. Therefore, he easily stabilized his position, and it was even easier than when he took the position of head supervisor. Moreover, he also instructed Deer Marshal City and the surrounding cities to openly smuggle goods, and the rules were the same as Mist Qi cities. As a result, the resources Leng Shichi could obtain every month instantly doubled. Moreover, as time passed, this city would definitely attract more and more merchants, and his harvest would only increase. What Leng Shichi needed to do next was to integrate the assassins he arranged into the Dark Thunder Guards as soon as possible. At the very least, the Dark Thunder Hall could operate normally. Therefore, Leng Shichi was also very busy these days. He had never been good at these things, but now that he was appointed as the great supervisor, he couldn't be as relaxed as before. At the very least, he would have to wait for his subordinates to completely take over a few Dark Thunder Manors before he could do so. That night, after Leng Shichi finished reviewing all the missions and information, he closed his eyes and took a nap. He had never liked to do such things, but he was exhausted these past few days. It was even more tiring than non-stop cultivation. However, at this moment, Leng Shichi, who was resting with his eyes closed, suddenly pointed his finger. In an instant, the blood qi and the power of lightning transformed into a blood-red thunderbolt that shot out towards an empty space in the room. However, the blood-red bolt of lightning suddenly turned invisible and disappeared halfway through its flight. At the same time, a figure walked out of the void. It was Wuxiang. Wuxiang appeared and stared at Leng Shichi with a burning gaze. He secretly praised, "Tiskithe, my good disciple, is this how you welcome your master?" Leng Shichi didn't expect Wuxiang to suddenly appear here. Just now, he inadvertently sensed that there was a weak aura hidden nearby, so he took action to test it out. Disciple greets master. Leng Shichi stood up and cupped his fist. Wuxiang raised his hand and formed an isolation restriction. He praised, "I've heard about what you did in the Dark Thunder Guards. I didn't expect you to be promoted to the great supervisor in just half a year. Your cultivation has also improved by leaps and bounds. As expected, a great teacher produces a great disciple." Leng Shichi heard this and the corner of his eyes twitched. However, he still said, "It's all because of master's good teaching." That's enough. I was just saying it casually. Your cultivation has improved so quickly. It seems that you have had a lot of opportunities. You are really lucky. Hearing this, Leng Shiqi didn't think so. Instead, he felt that he was too good at causing trouble. No matter where he went, he would inexplicably encounter great danger. Just like this time in Zhulu country, if he didn't have several trump cards, he would have died long ago. How could he have the glory he had today? Therefore, opportunities and dangers coexisted. Some people could turn dangers into opportunities, while others would be buried even if they were given a great opportunity. However, Leng Shiqi didn't know why Wuxiang suddenly appeared here. He asked, "Master, why did you come all the way from Muqing County to the West Desolate Province?" "It's all because of you." Wuxiang sighed deeply and said, "After you became the great supervisor, almost half of the assassins in the West Desolate Province were transferred away by you. The West Desolate Province is remote, and there aren't many assassins there. With so many people transferred away, the West Desolate Province is almost unable to operate. I brought a group of assassins from the main pavilion to replenish the number of people in the West Desolate Province, so I came to see you." Hearing this answer, Leng Shiqi didn't know whether to laugh or cry. When he went to the West Desolate Province to use the silver-striped blood kill order to transfer people, the main pavilion here agreed very quickly, so Leng Shiqi didn't care too much. It turned out that the other party's heart was bleeding. Wuxiang continued, "Of course, Master also has a few things to tell you. First of all, with your cultivation you could have been promoted to a silver-striped blood-clothed assassin, but you haven't done a mission for a long time, so the blood drops are definitely not enough. The sect took into account your uniqueness, and let many of our people infiltrate the Dark Thunder Guards, which is not a small contribution, so the sect decided to directly promote you to a silver-striped blood-clothed assassin." Leng Shiqi was stunned for a moment. He actually almost forgot about this. The main thing was that he hadn't done an assassin mission for too long, so he almost forgot that it was his job. Then Wuxiang took out a bag and handed it over. Leng Shiqi opened it and saw his new clothes, identity token, and 2 jade slips. Wuxiang explained, "You are a newly promoted silver-striped blood-clothed assassin, so according to the rules, you can obtain a level 5 spirit technique for free. It's not convenient for you to go to the main pavilion to choose, so I directly chose one for you. It's more suitable for the 7 Fiend Blood Kill art. As for the other jade slip, it's the complete 7 Fiend Blood Kill art. The complete 7 Fiend Blood Kill art. And the spirit technique that was compatible with it. The 7 Fiend Blood Kill art that Leng Shiqi cultivated before was given to him by senior sister Sulwan, and it was only the first part. After he broke through to the spirit aperture realm, there was no other cultivation method, so of course he was happy to accept it. At this time, Leng Shiqi suddenly asked, "Master, I want to ask you about someone." Wuxiang laughed sinisterly and said, "Kid, even if you don't say it, I know who it is. It's Delta Origi." Chapter 408. As for Delta Origi, Leng Shiqi really wanted to know her whereabouts. Since the Blood Cloak Pavilion's Blood Seed plan had been launched, Delta Origi must have been arranged to join a big force. He was both concerned and curious. However, Wuxiang fell silent. Leng Shiqi's heart suddenly tightened. Could it be that something had happened to Delta Origi? "Master, what happened to Delta Origi?" he asked anxiously. "She went to the Blood Prison." Wuxiang's voice was a little low. Blood Prison? Leng Shiqi had never heard of this place, but just by hearing the name, he knew it was not a good place. Wuxiang explained, "There are 2 kinds of people in the Blood Prison. One is the abandoned disciples of the Blood Cloak Pavilion. These people basically violated the rules of the sect and were sent to the Blood Prison. If there are no accidents, they will be trapped there for the rest of their lives. As for the other kind, it has something to do with you and Gusan." Leng Shiqi could not help but be a little surprised when he heard this. Before the establishment of the Blood Fog Island, the biggest difficulty the sect encountered was the lack of a large number of talents. As you know, the Blood Cloak Pavilion is an assassin force. Whether it is the system of training assassins or the strength of their assassins, they are the best in the world. However, there are almost no people in the Blood Cloak Pavilion who study formations, alchemy, weapon refining, and the like. In order to establish the Blood Fog Island, a large number of formation masters, beast tamers, puppet masters, and so on are needed. The Blood Cloak Pavilion does not have any of these people. Therefore, the sect decided to use the method of escaping, secretly keeping those who needed to be killed in the mission and sending them to the Blood Fog Island to maintain the normal operation of the Blood Fog Island. After you came out of the Blood Fog Island, these people were supposed to be dealt with, but they were indeed very capable. The sect also felt that it was a pity to kill them directly, so they were all imprisoned in the Blood Prison. The more he listened, the more Leng Shiqi frowned. From what Wu Xiang said, the people in the blood prison could be said to be all vicious outlaws. Why did Delta Origi go to the blood prison? Could it be that she had made a huge mistake? At this time Wu Xiang said, Delta Origi wanted to go in. What? Leng Shiqi was suddenly surprised. His mind raced, but he couldn't figure out why Delta Origi would take the initiative to enter the blood prison. Wu Xiang looked at Leng Shiqi with a strange look. Speaking of which, this has something to do with you. Because the Delta Origi felt that their strength was far inferior to yours and wanted to catch up to you or even surpass you, they chose to enter the blood prison. Master will not hide it from you, the living environment in the blood prison is far worse than you can imagine. Compared to the blood prison, the Blood Mist Island you're on is simply an immortal palace. However, you don't have to worry. The sect naturally won't let anything happen to Delta Origi. There are also people secretly protecting her in the blood prison. And from what I know, Delta Origi seems to have already broken through to the Spirit Aperture realm. It seems that her decision to go to the blood prison was the correct one. Hearing that Delta Origi had also broken through to the Spirit Aperture realm, Leng Shiqi was inwardly shocked. He remembered that Delta Origi had only broken through to the Spirit Aperture realm for less than a year, but she had actually directly crossed an entire realm. Delta Origi's cultivation talent could be said to be terrifying. She had also received the teachings of the Sky Origin Realm expert, Bone Demon, and had also trained in the blood prison, so it was natural for her to have such a cultivation. Seeing that Leng Shiqi seemed to understand, Wu Xiang changed the topic. You've been promoted very quickly in the Western Desolate Province, but from now on, don't be greedy and advance rashly. You need to know how to restrain yourself. Although the Western Desolate Province is under Yu Ruifeng's jurisdiction, there are still others watching you. If you promote too quickly and too loudly, it will inevitably attract the attention of others. Your identity can be said to be perfect, but Master's identity still has loopholes. If someone finds out, all our previous efforts will be wasted. Leng Shiqi nodded. He had originally planned to stabilize for a period of time. Since Wu Xiang had nothing else to tell him, he might as well quietly leave. Leng Shiqi began to study the complete 7 Fiend Blood Art as well as the new rank 5 spiritual skill 7 Fiend Blood Art. First, he used the system to learn the 7 Fiend Blood Art. The biggest characteristic of the 7 Fiend Blood Art was that it could mobilize one's own blood chi and killing intent. Blood Carnage was a spiritual skill that used blood chi. Now that he was at the Spirit Aperture realm, he could cultivate a deeper level of killing intent. The spiritual skill that controlled killing intent was called Imperial Fiend Art. This spiritual skill did not have a specific rank, because the power of the Imperial Fiend Art was directly related to the density of the user's killing intent. After Leng Shiqi finished cultivating the Imperial Fiend Art, he formed a seal with both hands. He planned to stimulate the invisible killing intent in his body to see how high his killing intent was. Leng Shiqi's seal did not move. Immediately, a trace of blood chi emerged from his body. Immediately after, his body seemed to have opened a floodgate as waves of killing intent appeared crazily. Not long after, the entire room was filled with a dense killing intent. One could even faintly hear the wailing of ghosts. Even Leng Shiqi's eyes were faintly red as a tyrannical emotion rose up. At this moment, Leng Shiqi's spiritual illusion world shook slightly. A ripple filled with a strange rhythm surged out and suppressed the emotions. He looked to his left and right and was a little surprised at how thick his murderous aura was. Normally, people who had this much killing intent would have already become madmen who only knew how to kill. The reason why Leng Shiqi did not have any abnormalities was because his willpower was very firm and his mentality was very good. Perhaps it was a habit formed from the Blood Fog Island, but the people he killed were people who deserved to be killed. Therefore, he did not have any worries in his heart. Moreover, his mental strength was very strong and was enough to suppress the killing intent. Next, Leng Shiqi followed the method in the Imperial Fiend Art to first tame the killing intent and completely absorb it for his own use. In this way he could avoid being affected by the killing intent and also use it to defend against enemies. It was killing two birds with one stone. The spirit seal in Leng Shiqi's hand changed, and the dense baleful aura quickly gathered and slowly circulated around him. As time passed, the killing intent condensed into a layer of dark red light film that attached to Leng Shiqi's body. Gradually, the shape of this layer of light film began to change. After 2 hours, it actually transformed into a thin light armor. This was one of the methods of using killing intent in the Imperial Fiend Art, the Blood Fiend Spirit Armor. Spirit Aperture Realm cultivators were able to use their spirit energy to condense a protective spirit armor around their body. The protective spirit armor was far stronger than the protective spirit energy. Normal Spirit Pulse Realm attacks would find it difficult to break through the protective spirit armor. The defensive power of the Blood Fiend spirit armor was far stronger than the protective spirit armor. At the same time, the killing intent released by the armor could affect the opponent's mind. This was a high-level spirit technique that combined both defense and disruption. In addition, the Imperial Fiend art also had an offensive spirit technique called Heart Calamity. Chapter 409. Evil Heart Retribution was a method that could inject evil chi into the enemy's body. The evil chi would erode the enemy's body and destroy the enemy's consciousness. It could be said that it was an extremely vicious spiritual technique. Leng Shiqi directly used his infinite skill points to upgrade these two spiritual techniques to the Great Perfection Realm. The Blood Evil Spirit armor became more solid and heavy. Unfortunately, he couldn't test the power of the Evil Heart Retribution. After cultivating these two spiritual techniques, Leng Shiqi picked up another Jade Slip. This was the level 5 spiritual technique that Wu Xiang had chosen for him, the Seven Swords of Bloody Massacre. This sword technique was of the same origin as the Seven Swords of Bloody Massacre. The two complemented each other, but it wasn't recorded in the cultivation technique. This was because the Blood Garment Pavilion had never restricted the cultivation direction of their disciples. The Blood Slaughter 7 Fiend art itself had the Blood Slaughter art and the Fiend Resistance art, which were both auxiliary spirit skills. In this way, the Blood Cloak assassins could choose the path that was most suitable for them based on their talents and preferences. If you used a sword, you could also exchange your blood for the Seven Swords of Bloody Massacre. Leng Shiqi picked up the Jade Slip and used his mental power to explore it. He saw the cultivation technique of the Seven Swords of Bloody Massacre. At the same time, the system gave him a prompt. Without saying anything, he cultivated it to the Great Perfection Realm in one step. The Seven Swords of Bloody Massacre had a total of 7 sword moves. Each move was stronger than the previous one. When cultivated to the Great Perfection Realm, the 7 moves could be combined into one move. When the sword was used, it seemed like only one move, but in fact there were 7 sword moves hidden. Not only was the explosive power extremely strong, but it was also impossible to guard against. For Leng Shiqi, with his current cultivation, the previous 17 sword techniques of Mount Song was somewhat useless. Therefore, the Bloody Slaughter 7 deadly swords could be considered as a supplement for him. With Wu Xiang's visit, he gave Leng Shiqi a cultivation method and a spiritual skill, which allowed Leng Shiqi's strength to increase again. When Leng Shiqi finished studying the cultivation techniques and spiritual techniques, the sky was already bright. He pondered for a moment and sent someone to call Qiu Qing over. When Qiu Qing learned that Leng Shiqi was looking for him early in the morning, he knew that there must be something urgent. He hurried to Leng Shiqi's room and bowed. "Greetings, Darren." After Leng Shiqi transferred Qiu Qing to Hanzhou City, although he was still a Dark Lightning envoy, the authority in his hands was far greater than before. He also knew that all of this was given to him by Leng Shiqi, so he was even more respectful towards Leng Shiqi. "Qiu Qing, let me ask you," Leng Shiqi asked straightforwardly, "are there any powerful alchemists in the northern county? At the very least, it has to be the kind that can refine Tier 6 medicinal pills." The reason why Leng Shiqi asked this was because he didn't lack any cultivation methods or spiritual skills, and he was almost done with the fusion of the spiritual skills. Thus, he began to shift his focus to improving his cultivation. However, for a spirit cultivator of the Spirit Aperture Realm, increasing his cultivation was becoming more and more difficult. If he only relied on bitter cultivation, he didn't know when he would be able to cultivate to the 9th level of the Spirit Aperture Realm. Although Leng Shiqi had the Yin-Yang Spirit Convergence Array, this array consumed too many spirit stones. In the 3 months that he was in seclusion, he had already used up 70 to 80% of the spirit stones he obtained from the Gu God sect. Even if his family was rich, it couldn't support him to use the Yin-Yang Spirit Convergence Array without limit. Thus, Leng Shiqi thought of the most suitable pill for a Spirit Aperture Realm cultivator, the Awakening Pill. Not only could the Awakening Pill help a spirit cultivator open their spirit aperture, it could also greatly increase their cultivation. And Leng Shiqi himself had something very precious, and that was the Awakening Pill's recipe. This recipe was obtained in the illusory spirit secret realm, and he had never used it. Now it was time for it to be used. The Awakening Pill was a Tier 6 medicinal pill, and the Awakening Pill's recipe was enough to be ranked as a Tier 8 treasure. The value of the awakening pill and its recipe was the same as the value of eggs and hens. One was a one-time consumable, and the other was something that could be continuously produced. The value was completely incomparable. However, Leng Shiqi didn't know how to refine pills, so he could only recruit an alchemist who could refine the awakening pill. As for the materials, he had prepared most of them. First of all, he had taken a lot of materials to refine the awakening pill when he was in the Gu God sect. Coupled with the inventory of the various Dark Thunder Hall, he didn't have to worry about the materials for a short period of time. Now, it could be said that everything was ready and he only lacked an alchemist. Thus he called Qiu Qing over to ask. Qiu Qing's eyes were moving around, and he was carefully searching his memories. People who could refine Tier 6 medicinal pills were enough to be called alchemist masters. Such people were very rare, and after thinking for a while, he finally thought of one person. Sir, there is indeed an alchemist master in the north region called Wenren Gu. Qiu Qing replied, however, this person is not from a spirit cultivator sect. He has been wandering around for many years, so I don't know where he is now. I don't even know if he is in the north region. As long as there is someone. Leng Shiqi ordered, spread out all the information to find Wenren Gu. Once you find him, immediately invite him over. Yes. Qiu Qing did not hesitate to turn around and carry out the task. After Qiu Qing left, Leng Shiqi sent someone to call Guan Feihong. After Guan Feihong walked in, he cupped his hands and took out a piece of paper. Then he stood with his hands behind his back. Leng Shiqi immediately frowned. During this period of time he had asked Guan Feihong to search for information about the Dark Shadow clan, but the result was a piece of paper? One must know that Guan Feihong was able to mobilize the Blood Cloak Pavilion and the Dark Thunder Guard's information network at the same time. How could he only find out such little information? However, Leng Shiqi did not mean to blame him. He believed that Guan Feihong would not neglect his duties. Since he had upgraded the system, he knew that he had a bloodline called the Dark Shadow clan. However, he was very unfamiliar with this name, so he asked Guan Feihong to search for information about it. When Leng Shiqi picked up the piece of paper, there was only one line on it. The Dark Shadow clan seems to be related to the Nether Temple. The Nether Temple. Leng Shiqi murmured these words. At this time, Guan Feihong took out another piece of information, which recorded the information about the Nether Temple. Similarly, this piece of information only had a few sentences. The Nether Temple is a transcendent force that is above the three dynasties. It is one of the Yin and Yang temples. Guan Feihong explained in a timely manner, the Nether Temple is extremely secretive. Until now, no one knows where their sect is. According to the information for thousands of years, the Nether Temple has only appeared a few times on the continent. However, every time they appear they will display shocking strength. The last time they appeared was more than 10 years ago. At that time, a first-rate force was single-handedly slaughtered by a person from the Nether Temple. Hearing this, Leng Shiqi frowned deeply. Chapter 410. Leng Shiqi just wanted to inquire about his bloodline, but he didn't expect that the Nether Temple would be involved. According to Guan Feihong, a person who could destroy a first-class force by himself must be an expert of the Tianyuan realm. And the Nether Temple was even more powerful than the three dynasties. It could be imagined how terrible this force was. The system did show that Leng Shiqi had the bloodline, but he didn't feel it at all. He also remembered that before he broke through to the Spirit Aperture realm on the Gu God Peak, a mysterious black mark appeared on his forehead, which helped him absorb a lot of power. But since then, Leng Shiqi had checked his body countless times, but he didn't find any trace. Now he knew that the Dark Shadow clan had an inseparable relationship with the Nether Temple, and he had no way to deal with it for a while. Of course, the real awakening of the bloodline would definitely make his strength improve greatly, but Leng Shiqi didn't want to provoke such a giant like the Nether Temple for no reason. So he had to put the bloodline matter aside for the time being. Well, thank you for your hard work, Leng Shiqi said to Guan Feihong. It's my duty. Guan Feihong changed the topic and said, by the way, Your Excellency, I just got the news this morning that the second-class force, Wind and Thunder Tower, invited you to participate in their monster slaughtering assembly. Wind and Thunder Tower? Monster slaughtering assembly? He had heard of the Wind and Thunder Tower. It was one of the few second-class forces in the North County, famous for the power of wind and thunder. But why would the Wind and Thunder Tower hold a monster slaughtering assembly? This was the West Wilderness County, where there wasn't even a demonic beast. How could there be a monster to slaughter? What Leng Shiqi cared more about was that when he heard the word monster, He immediately thought of Jiuli. It had been half a year since he parted with Jiuli last time. During this time he hadn't received any message from Jiuli, let alone know where she had gone. But Leng Shiqi knew that Jiuli wouldn't stay put. Last time in the Donglin County, Jiuli sneaked into the Extreme Fire Manor and took most of their resources. Later she was chased by 2 gang Spirit Realm disciples, which was miserable. This time could he have offended the Wind Thunder Tower again? This was not Leng Shiqi's imagination running wild. Rather, if there was a powerful demonic beast in the Western Desolate Province, it could only be 9 Leave. Of course, Leng Shiqi also hoped that he was just imagining things. Guan Feihong saw that Leng Shiqi didn't say anything, so he asked, "Darren, this subordinate has rejected them." "No." Leng Shiqi said, "Tell me what happened first." "It's like this." Guan Feihong answered, "Some time ago the Wind Thunder Tower captured a demonic beast. It was said that this beast had committed heinous crimes in the East County and was chased all the way to the North County. In the end it fell into the hands of the Wind Thunder Tower. Thus, the Wind and Thunder Tower wanted to hold a demonic extermination assembly to kill this demonic beast in front of everyone to prove the might of the heavens." Leng Shiqi sneered. What did he mean by proving the might of the heavens? He just wanted to use this opportunity to improve his reputation. These spiritual cultivation sects cared about these things most. However, after listening to Guan Feihong's words, Leng Shiqi felt that the demonic beast was more likely to be 9 Leave. He had to go and take a look. He said, "Prepare some gifts and follow me to the Wind Thunder Tower." The Wind Thunder Tower was located in the east of the North County, which was very close to the East County. On this day, Leng Shiqi took Guan Feihong to the Wind Thunder Tower. Both of them were wearing the clothes of the Dark Thunder Guard, so they were soon recognized by the doorman at the door. Guan Feihong handed over the name card. The doorman immediately stared at them and looked up at Leng Shiqi. Then he shouted, "The supervisor of the North County of the Dark Thunder Guard, Darren Liu, is here." Soon, a gray-haired old man in a purple cloak came out with a warm smile. This man was the head of the Wind Thunder Tower, Hong Guangji. He was at the late stage of the Spirit Gang realm. Even so, Hong Guangji had to be polite to Leng Shiqi, who was at the middle stage of the Spirit Aperture realm. That was because of Leng Shiqi's identity. Although the Discipline Department was said to be a deterrent to the Spirit Cultivator sects, the Discipline Department was equivalent to a tiger blocking the road. If you couldn't beat it, you could go around it. The Dark Thunder Guard was equivalent to a poisonous snake hiding in the dark, staring at you all the time. Once you showed the slightest flaw, you would die without a burial place. Therefore, for these Spirit Cultivator sects, sometimes the Dark Thunder Guard was more threatening than the Discipline Department. "Darren Liu is here. It's an honor, an honor." Hong Guangji laughed. As the saying goes, don't hit a smiling person. Leng Shiqi also laughed and said, "Head Hong, it's an honor to meet you." "Aha, Darren Liu, please come in." "Please." Hong Guangji led Leng Shiqi and Guan Feihong into the Wind Thunder Tower. The buildings in the Wind Thunder Tower were mainly small pavilions, each of which was very unique. At this time, there were many people talking to each other in the pavilions. These were all people who came to participate in the demon slaughtering assembly. When they saw Leng Shiqi coming, they all looked at him. The topic of these people's conversation naturally turned to Leng Shiqi, the new supervisor of the North County. Of course, there were good and bad comments. Some envied him for reaching such a high position at such a young age, and some didn't think he could do well in this position. Leng Shiqi turned a deaf ear to those people's discussion. What he cared about most was who was going to be slaughtered in this so-called demon slaughtering assembly. He lowered his voice and asked, "Head Hong, to tell you the truth, I have been very curious about what this demon beast looks like. You also know that many people in the West Wilderness Prefecture have never seen a demon beast in their lives. Can you let me see it first?" This. Hong Guangji revealed a hesitant expression. Logically speaking, he naturally hoped to wait until everyone was here before revealing the true appearance of the demon beast. However, Leng Shiqi's status was not low. If he did not even agree to such a small request, it would be a bit disrespectful. "Of course, there's no problem. I'll bring Lord Liu over to take a look." Just as they were about to move, the doorman's shout came again. "The Grand Commissioner of the North County's Discipline Division, Lord Wang, has arrived. The people from the Discipline Division are here too?" Hearing this, Leng Shiqi was a little puzzled. The relationship between the Discipline Division and the Spirit Cultivator sect had never been good. In the hearts of the Spirit Cultivators, the Discipline Division was the lackey of the Imperial Court and was not liked. Moreover, the discipline division had to maintain a certain distance from the spirit cultivator sect. If they got close, it would not be good for either side. Not only was Leng Shiqi puzzled, even Hong Guangji was puzzled and revealed a surprised expression. Because he did not invite the discipline division at all. Now that the people from the discipline division had come uninvited, the Grand Commissioner had personally come. That was an existence on the same level as the Dark Thunder Guard's supervisor. Hong Guangji's heart could not help but beat faster. Chapter 411. Leng Shiqi and Hong Guangji were both surprised by the sudden arrival of people from the Discipline Commission. However, since they were already here and their status wasn't low, Hong Guangji had no reason to not receive them. Hong Guangji looked at Leng Shiqi with a slightly troubled expression. Lord Lu? Leng Shiqi cupped his hands. The head commissioner of the Discipline Commission has arrived. Sect Master Hong, please help yourself. Lord Lu, please forgive us. Hong Guangji called over a Spirit Aperture Realm Elder. Elder Qin accompany Lord Lu. Then Hong Guangji went to receive the head commissioner of the Discipline Commission. Elder Qing said, Lord Lu, this way please. Not long after, Leng Shiqi and the others arrived at a dark underground room. Leng Shiqi looked around and found that there were all kinds of formations and restrictions here. This should be where the beast was locked up. At this time, Elder Qing took out something that looked like a key and opened up a door in the layers of formations. He said, Lord Lu, the beast is inside. However, this beast is abnormally fierce and has strange methods. Even with restrictions, it's still dangerous. It's best if Lord Lu doesn't get too close. Leng Shiqi nodded silently and walked through the door. Guan Feihong waited in place. As soon as he stepped in, he immediately sensed Nine Leave in the illusion world. So even though he didn't see it, he knew that it was Nine Leave that was locked up here. Leng Shiqi raised his head and saw hundreds of golden chains intertwined in the air to form a cage. Inside the cage, there was a demonic beast that was half the height of a human curled up. It was Nine Leave. Just as Leng Shiqi was wondering why Nine Leave was actually captured, Nine Leave's voice appeared in Leng Shiqi's mind. Leng Shiqi, why are you here? Leng Shiqi heard that Nine Leave's tone was very relaxed. It didn't seem like he was about to be publicly killed and become a tool for the Wind and Thunder Tower to gain reputation. Leng Shiqi couldn't help but recall the time when Nine Leave was being hunted down by the people of Extreme Fire Manor. Nine Leave had also appeared relaxed and content. He wasn't sure if Nine Leave had deliberately allowed himself to be caught. Senior Nine Leave, how did you get captured by the Wind and Thunder Tower? Leng Shiqi communicated with Nine Leave through the spiritual illusion realm. Nine Leave let out a disdainful snort. If I don't get caught, I won't be able to escape the pursuit of a large number of masters in the East County. Moreover, the Wind Thunder Tower did not capture me. I came here on my own accord. Otherwise, how could that bastard Hong Guangji catch me? Leng Shiqi thought about it and agreed. Although Nine Leave was a rank 4 demonic beast, if she wanted to escape, Hong Guangji really couldn't do anything to her. However, Leng Shiqi was even more confused. Since Nine Leave wanted to use the Wind and Thunder Tower to avoid being hunted down, he should have achieved his goal by now. Why was he still staying here? Leng Shiqi didn't believe that this restriction could really control Nine Leave. As if seeing through Leng Shiqi's thoughts, Nine Leave said, Since you're here, it means that the Demon Extermination Conference of the Wind and Thunder Tower is starting today, right? That's right. Most of the people outside have arrived. It will probably start at noon. Senior Nine Leave, do you want me to think of a way to help you escape? There's no need. I don't care about this array formation. I'll just send a fake body out later. Let me ask you. With so many people here today, the Masters of the Wind and Thunder Tower should have gone out to welcome the distinguished guests, right? Hearing this, Leng Shiqi's heart skipped a beat. He seemed to have guessed Nine Leave's intention. Nine Leave was probably eyeing the treasures hidden in the Wind and Thunder Tower again. However, it was indeed as Nine Leave said. As there were many distinguished guests with high status present today, the sect master and many elders of the Wind and Thunder Tower were also receiving the guests. Leng Shiqi replied, Everything is as senior expected. Very good. Nine Leave said with satisfaction. Since you're here, help me out later. You don't have to give me the resources you owe me. Don't have to give? Leng Shiqi was secretly shocked. He owed half of the resources to the Nine Leave Profound Yang sect. Nine Leave actually said he didn't want it. It could be imagined that what Nine Leave wanted must be an extremely precious heavenly treasure. However, Leng Shiqi still couldn't agree directly. He still had to ask clearly first, Senior, Can you tell me specifically what you need me to do? Originally, I planned to use the illusory god technique to fake my death and then get something. But that thing is also surrounded by array formations and restrictions, and there is also a spirit astral realm cultivator guarding it. According to my original plan, I wanted to end the battle quickly and take the treasure before the masters of the Wind and Thunder Tower could react. Now that you're here, it's even simpler. You are now at the spirit aperture realm and proficient in illusion techniques. You should have a way to hypnotize the person next to you. Leng Shiqi glanced at Elder Qing. Since they came in, Elder Qing had been standing behind Leng Shiqi. This person's cultivation was similar to Leng Shiqi's, at the middle stage of the spirit aperture realm. Leng Shiqi still had some confidence. Yes. Very good. Later you can hypnotize him directly. I'll leave an illusory body here to set up first. This way the chances of success will be higher. Leng Shiqi nodded silently. Then, a green ring with a ferocious appearance quietly appeared on his finger. It was the 7th level spiritual weapon, the God of Poison Ring. Immediately after, a majestic and pure mental strength surged out. Leng Shiqi turned around abruptly, and his eyes flashed with 5-colored light. In Elder Qing's eyes, the scene of heaven and earth changed instantly. For heavenly deities looked down on all living beings. Elder Qing's eyes suddenly widened, and his gaze became unfocused. Taking advantage of this opportunity, 9 Leaves' purple light flowed and left an identical demon body in place. She went directly to Leng Shiqi's side. 9 Leaf glanced at Elder Qing and said in surprise, "This move of yours is quite impressive. The array formation outside can sense my aura. Put away my corporeal body and bring me out first." Then a green shadow rushed out from 9 Leaves' body and entered Leng Shiqi's illusion world. Leng Shiqi immediately put away 9 Leaves' body, and then he made the same expression as Elder Qing. After about half an incense's time, Elder Qing finally recovered. His face was pale and a layer of sweat seeped out of his forehead. He first looked at the cage in the air and was relieved when he found that the demon beast was still trapped inside. At this time, Leng Shiqi also woke up. He immediately said with a bit of shock, "Elder Qing, what happened just now? This demon beast is very strange. It can control people's souls. We might have fallen into its trap just now. Lord Lu, let's quickly leave this place." Elder Qing said with lingering fear. "Okay, let's go." Chapter 412. Leng Shiqi and Elder Qing walked out with lingering fear. When Guan Feihong saw this, he was slightly puzzled, but he did not ask anything and silently followed behind Leng Shiqi. When the 3 of them returned to the ground, Leng Shiqi said, "Elder Qing, I see that there are many guests today. You should go and entertain the other guests." This. Elder Qing hesitated for a moment. Leng Shiqi casually said, "It's fine, I'll just walk around." Elder Qing then cupped his hands and said, "Thank you for your understanding, Lord Lu. The demon slaughtering assembly will begin at noon. At that time, please come to the Wind Thunder platform to watch." "All right. I'll take my leave." After Elder Qing left, Leng Shiqi quietly opened his supercilious eyes and avoided all the spirit cultivators. He then released 9 Leaf from a secret place. The moment 9 Leaf came out, her eyes flashed with excitement. She said, "Leng Shiqi, when the time is right, it's best if you can help me delay Hong Guangji for a while. As long as you can delay him, I have a 100% chance of getting that item. When the time comes, you can have a share." Leng Shiqi had always been curious. What treasure did 9 Leaf have her eyes on? "Senior 9 Leaf, I wonder what the item you're talking about is?" 9 Leaf smiled mysteriously. "That item is called the Wind Thunder Divine Luck Stone. Not only can it refine the power of wind and thunder, it also contains a trace of the power of destiny. In some ways it's not much inferior to the Heaven Demon Soul Crystal. It's an incredible treasure." Wind Thunder Divine Luck Stone. Leng Shiqi knew about this item, because this was the foundation of the Wind Thunder Tower, the sect's most precious treasure. 9 Leaf actually planned to dig out the roots of the Wind Thunder Tower. If Hong Guangji knew that the demonic beasts they had personally captured were actually targeting their sect's most precious treasure, who knew how he would feel? Leng Shiqi felt that he didn't need to worry too much about this matter. After all, even if he didn't come to the Wind Thunder Tower, 9 Leaf would have a way to get the Wind Thunder Divine Luck Stone. And since he came, he could be considered to have helped a little. He also earned a lot. Putting everything else aside, just the large amount of resources that he owed 9 Leaf was already a considerable amount of wealth. Therefore he just had to pretend that he didn't know anything and secretly delay Hong Guangji for a while. This was a piece of cake for him. In the following time, Leng Shiqi and Guan Feihong walked around the Wind Thunder Tower for a while and experienced the uniqueness of the Wind Thunder Tower. At noon, they arrived at the venue of the monster extermination meet, the Wind Thunder platform. At this moment, the Wind Thunder arena was already packed with people. There were already many disciples of the Wind Thunder Tower. In addition to the guests, the entire Wind Thunder arena was a little crowded. On the east side of the Wind Thunder platform, a jade platform had been erected. There were about 10 people seated on it. These were all VIPs invited by the Wind Thunder Tower. None of them had simple statuses. Everyone in the Wind Thunder arena had a curious and expectant look on their faces. Especially for those spirit cultivators below the 4 realms of heaven, it was very novel to be able to see a high-level demonic beast, not to mention killing one in public. After Leng Shiqi arrived here, he was led to the jade platform by a disciple of the Wind Thunder Tower. He looked at them carefully, but he didn't recognize anyone. However, just because he didn't recognize these people didn't mean that he didn't know who they were. After he became the great supervisor, he read the information of all the famous people in the North County. There were a total of 13 people, most of whom were the sect leaders or the upper echelons of various spirit cultivator sects. There were also a few city lords of several nearby cities, and then there was the commissioner of the discipline department, Wang Tai. Wang Tai was the commissioner of the discipline department, who awed the North County. His cultivation at the 9th level of the spirit gang realm was the best. When he saw Leng Shiqi coming over, his eyes immediately locked on Leng Shiqi. Since Leng Shiqi became the supervisor half a year ago, Wang Tai often heard this name. Especially after Leng Shiqi destroyed the Shenyang sect, some people in the discipline department still had a lot of opinions, because this kind of thing should be the responsibility of the discipline department, to be more precise. According to common sense, after Leng Shiqi got the evidence that the Shenyang sect colluded with the Zhulu state, he should report it to Duan Chun, and Duan Chun should ask the discipline department to destroy the Shenyang sect. However, Leng Shiqi destroyed the Shenyang sect by himself. Such a huge contribution had been swallowed by him alone. Wang Tai thought that Leng Shiqi would definitely be suppressed by Duan Chun, but he didn't expect that in just a few months, Leng Shiqi would ascend to the position of the great supervisor again. Now Leng Shiqi's official position was the same as Wang Tai's, but the Dark Thunder Guard supervised the world, including the discipline department. So from this point of view, Leng Shiqi still had the power to suppress Wang Tai. Wang Tai, a master at the 9th level of Gang Spirit Realm, was suppressed by Leng Shiqi, who was at the 5th level of Spiritual Aperture Realm, which made him unhappy. However, Wang Tai didn't intend to target Leng Shiqi. He was not stupid. Since Leng Shiqi could be the great supervisor, he must have both background and ability. Besides, the discipline department and the Dark Thunder Guard had always minded their own business, so he didn't have to find fault with them. The most important thing was that he had more important things to do in the Wind and Thunder Tower. Leng Shiqi walked up to the jade platform and exchanged pleasantries with the group of big shots. Everyone had joyous expressions on their faces and they were all in harmony. Finally, Leng Shiqi sat beside Wang Tai. He was also very curious about why Wang Tai came uninvited. Wang Tai said with a smile, "Mr. Liu, you are promoted to the great supervisor at such a young age. You are really a young hero." "You flatter me, Mr. Wang," Leng Shiqi said modestly. However, Wang Tai immediately condensed his voice into a line and transmitted a message to Leng Shiqi. "Mr. Liu, I don't know if you are interested in one thing." Leng Shiqi didn't know how to condense his voice into a line, so he could only use his eyes to signal Wang Tai to tell him the details. Wang Tai then transmitted a message. "To tell you the truth, the reason why I came to the Wind and Thunder Tower is that the Wind and Thunder Tower has angered the public. The evil beast to be killed in this demon slaughtering conference has stolen a lot of resources from various spirit cultivation sects in the East County. As far as I know, although this evil beast is only a rank 4 evil beast, it has spiritual intelligence and super strength. Even an ordinary master of Gang Spirit Realm can't defeat it." Later, several spirit cultivation sects joined hands to hunt down this evil beast, but it still escaped and came to the North County. The evil beast was seriously injured, and it happened to be caught by Hong Guangji and others who were passing by at that time. If Hong Guangji secretly killed the evil beast, it would be fine, but he wanted to use this evil beast to increase the reputation of the Wind and Thunder Tower and held such a demon slaughtering conference, which completely angered those sects in the East County. Now the forces in the East County had already known the news and were clamoring for the Wind and Thunder Tower to hand over the evil beast, but Hong Guangji didn't care at all. I came here because I was afraid that those forces in the East County would make trouble. If there is really any trouble in this demon slaughtering conference, I hope Mr. Lu can stand out and say something. Hearing this, Leng Shiqi's eyes began to flicker. Chapter 413. Not long ago, when Leng Shiqi met Nine Leave only said a few words about what he had experienced, so Leng Shiqi did not know what had happened. Now that he heard King Tai's words, he knew the whole story. Leng Shiqi admired Nine Leave's ability to cause trouble. She actually went to the East County and provoked several spirit cultivator sects. She was even able to escape from the many experts who were chasing her. If she had not deliberately been caught by Hong Guangji, she would not have been caught by anyone. When these things happened, Leng Shiqi was either far away in Zhulu country or in closed-door cultivation, so he did not know that Nine Leave had caused so much trouble. Secondly, Leng Shiqi felt that Hong Guangji was a little confused. Nine Leave had stirred up trouble in the East County. Not only had those forces lost a lot of resources, they had also lost a lot of disciples. In the end, Wind and Thunder Tower had taken advantage of them. Just as King Tai had said, Hong Guangji should not have held this demon-slaughtering assembly. It would have been better if he had secretly handed Nine Leave to those sects in exchange for some resources. Wind and Thunder Tower had invited spirit cultivators to participate in the demon-slaughtering assembly to increase their reputation. But if the forces of the East County came to cause trouble, not only would they not be able to increase their reputation, they would also lose face if they did not handle it well. As for King Tai's request, if it was in the past, Leng Shiqi would definitely not agree, because this would involve him in the conflict between the spirit cultivator sections. The discipline division was in charge of these things, so it was fine if they interfered, but the Dark Thunder Guards did not want to blindly interfere. However, Leng Shiqi thought that Nine Leave had asked him to help stall Hong Guangji, so his thoughts began to become active. King Tai saw that Leng Shiqi had fallen into hesitation. He knew that he could not move Leng Shiqi with his mouth, so he continued to transmit his voice. Lord Lu, don't worry, I will definitely not let Leng Shiqi get into trouble. Moreover, whether it is the Discipline Commission or the Hidden Thunder Guards, they all hope that the North County will be peaceful. They don't want to do anything, just not make any mistakes. If Lord Lu can help me settle this matter smoothly today, I will owe Lord Lu a favor. Hearing this, Leng Shiqi was also tempted. The favor of the Commissioner of Discipline Department, a master at the 9th level of Gang Spirit Realm, was too valuable. If this favor was used well, it could play a crucial role. Leng Shiqi nodded gently. Seeing this, Wang Taiyang smiled. Although Leng Shiqi's cultivation was not very high, his status was not low. He definitely had a say here. The words of the Discipline Commission and the Dark Thunder Guards, who were in charge of the North County at the same time, had a great deterrent effect. King Tai was even more confident about today's mission. Just as they were secretly discussing a deal, Hong Guangji stood up, and the others all tacitly stopped talking. The spectators on the Wind Thunder platform quieted down as well. They knew that the Demon Slaughter Conference was about to begin. Hong Guangji's old face was flushed at this time. His mouth moved slightly and his voice became clear and came into everyone's ears. Following that, he began to speak slowly like a leader. From time to time, he would list out some of Nine Leave's crimes. He also described how hard they had worked and how great of a price they had paid to capture Nine Leave. In short, he described how Nine Leave had committed the most heinous crimes, and how they were righteous and awe-inspiring to get rid of evil for the people. Half an hour had passed since Hong Guangji opened his mouth. Leng Shiqi even planned to divide part of his consciousness to deduce the spiritual skills. At this moment, a group of people rushed in aggressively. Behind this group of people, there were several disciples of the Wind Thunder Tower shouting, "Master, we don't know where they came from. We can't stop them." There were 4 people standing at the front of the group of people who broke in, and they were all in the Gang Spirit Realm. Behind them, there were 20 or 30 people, all of whom were spirit cultivators in the 4 realms of celestial being. These people were all gloomy. Obviously, they did not come with good intentions. The one-armed man among the 4 Gang Spirit Realm cultivators sneered, "That demonic beast was clearly being chased by us, but you, Hong Guangji, secretly took it away. You even held a demonic beast slaughtering assembly. How ridiculous." "That's right. When we were chasing the demonic beast, you said that you had never seen it. Now I want to hear your explanation," another one-eyed man said bitterly. Seeing these 2 people, everyone on the Wind Thunder platform suddenly burst into an uproar. The one-armed man is the leader of the Heavenly Destruction Alliance, Mangon. He is an expert in the late stage of the gang spirit realm. Yes, the one-eyed man beside him is the deputy leader of the Heavenly Destruction Alliance, Zheng Shen. There are also people from the Refining Heart Palace and the Drunk Dream Valley. What are they doing in the Wind Thunder Tower? Didn't you hear what they said? The demonic beast that the Wind Thunder Tower wants to behead in public is the demonic beast that caused a bloody storm in the East County not long ago. It is said that these sects lost a lot of disciples while chasing the demonic beast. The demonic beast is the shame of their lives. If they can kill the demonic beast, they can save some face. However, the demonic beast was hidden by the Wind Thunder Tower. Today they are here to settle accounts with Hong Guangji. Now there is a good show to watch. This trip is not in vain. Seeing the arrival of Mangon, Zheng Shen and others, Wang Tai became serious. He had thought that even if people from the East County came, there would not be so many masters. But now there were 4 gang spirit realm cultivators. This was not easy to solve. Looking at these people who came to make trouble, Leng Shiqi also had the mentality of watching a good show. As for Hong Guangji, his face was the worst. He was being questioned in front of so many people. Where was his dignity? Hong Guangji also expected that people from the East County might come, so he forced a smile and said, "Are you also here to attend the demonic beast slaughtering assembly? Please take a seat." Mangon immediately sneered, "What the hell is the demonic beast slaughtering assembly? You don't deserve it. Even if there is going to be a demonic beast slaughtering assembly, it should be held by us, not by a villain like you who secretly seeks profits." The smile on Hong Guangji's face had disappeared. What Mangon said was completely merciless. He said in a low voice, "Are you sure you want to go against the Wind Thunder Tower? You have chased the demonic beast for so long without success. In the end it was caught by the Wind Thunder Tower. I have done what you can't do. Naturally, I am qualified to hold the demonic beast slaughtering assembly. But we have seriously injured the demonic beast. You just took advantage of the situation." Zheng Shen shouted angrily, "Today you'd better hand over the demonic beast, otherwise." Speaking of this, the 4 gang spirit realm cultivators emitted horrible spiritual pressure at the same time. The air in the entire Wind Thunder platform suddenly seemed to be emptied in an instant, making it difficult for people to breathe. At this moment Wang Tai stood out. Chapter 4:14. King Tai was a conservative person. In his opinion, as long as the North region was stable, everything would be fine. Therefore he came here to be a peacemaker. At this moment, King Tai saw that the 2 sides were like fire and water and could fight at any time. If they really fought, no matter who won, the East region and North region spirit cultivator sects would be in chaos. This wasn't what the Discipline Division Grand Commissioner wanted to see. King Tai stepped and instantly arrived between the 2 sides. Zheng Shen and the other 3 spirit pressure didn't seem to exist on King Tai's body. He said with a smile, "Sect leader Hong, alliance leader Man, we can talk about anything. There's no need to use weapons and hurt the harmony." Man Tiangan and the others naturally recognized King Tai. At first, their attention was on Hong Guangji, so they didn't notice King Tai was here. Since King Tai was here, Man Tiangan retracted his spirit pressure and cupped his fists. Lord Wang is also here. I'm sure Lord Wang knows the whole story. This isn't a big deal. As long as Hong Guangji hands over the demon beast, we'll leave. That's right. This is already the biggest concession we can make, Zheng Shen added. King Tai didn't say anything. Instead he looked at Hong Guangji and gave him a meaningful look. Hong Guangji immediately understood King Tai's meaning. King Tai wanted stability and Hong Guangji to hand over the demon beast. Hong Guangji definitely wasn't willing, but King Tai was the North region's Grand Commissioner. He didn't dare to provoke him. However, Hong Guangji also guessed that the Heavenly Cripple Union might come to find trouble with him. He wasn't unprepared. He transmitted his voice to King Tai. Lord Wang, don't worry. I'll take care of this. I won't let the East region and North region become chaotic. That better be the case. Otherwise I won't clean up your mess. King Tai heard that Hong Guangji was prepared, so he retreated to the side. Hong Guangji knew that if he didn't handle today's matter well, King Tai wouldn't help him and would even hit him when he was down. Alliance leader Man, since you're all here, how about this? The Demon Slaughter Assembly will continue as usual, but Alliance leader Man will personally kill the demon beast. How about it? As soon as these words came out, Man Tiangang began to ponder. Leng Shiqi felt that this method seemed to be a good method for both sides to take a step back, but in the end, it still depended on how determined the people of the heavenly stem were. Man Tiangan, Zheng Shen, and the others had a simple discussion and said, "This method is not suitable. I have a better idea." "Alliance Master Man, please," Hong Guangji said. "We spirit cultivator naturally respect strength. Today I will set up a bet with this matter. Each of us will send out 3 people to fight, and the one who wins the most will be the winner. If sect leader Hong wins, we will leave without a second word. However, if we win, Humph, please bring out the demon beast, sect leader Hong." Hong Guangji's expression darkened. Including him, there were only 2 gang spirit realm experts in the Wind and Thunder Tower. The other one was still guarding the treasure pavilion of the sect. However, there were 4 masters of gang spirit realm on the other side. This was clearly an unequal gambling fight. How could he agree? But looking at the expressions of the people of the heavenly stem, it seemed that if he did not agree they would really fight. At this time Hong Guangji was in a dilemma. He really underestimated the spirit cultivator forces in the East County's obsession with the demon beast. At the end of the day, that demonic beast was only a rank 4 demonic beast. The reason why Hong Guangji held the demonic slaughtering assembly was firstly because this demonic beast had indeed caused a huge commotion. Secondly, many people had never seen a real demonic beast before, so they were willing to give face and participate in the demonic slaughtering assembly. But he did not expect that Nine Leave was about to swallow up all the resources of the Heavenly Destruction Alliance and several other forces. Not only that, in the process of chasing Nine Leave, they lost a large number of disciples. How could they let go of such hatred easily? They had to kill Rinjoli in order to vent the hatred in their hearts. Only then would they be able to save some face. At this point Hong Guangji had an idea. There were many masters of gang spirit realm present. As long as he could draw 1 or 2 of them to his side, he might be able to win the bet. So Hong Guangji looked at those people on the Jade platform. Most of them were in the gang spirit realm. But when they saw Hong Guangji looking at them, they all avoided eye contact and some of them even closed their eyes to rest. They were all people in high positions, so they naturally knew that this was the grudge between the Wind and Thunder Tower and the forces in the East County. They did not want to get involved. Only one person did not avoid Hong Guangji, that was Leng Shiqi. Unfortunately, Hong Guangji subconsciously eliminated Leng Shiqi from the list. In his opinion, Leng Shiqi could sit in the position of the supervisor of the North County because of his ability and background, not strength. At this moment he just needed a strong person. And the reason why Leng Shiqi kept looking at Hong Guangji was not that he really wanted to help him in the bet. Moreover, Leng Shiqi knew himself well. He could indeed threaten the masters of gang spirit realm when he broke out with all his strength. But it was limited to the early stage of gang spirit realm. Among the 4 masters of gang spirit realm, the weakest one was at the middle stage of gang spirit realm. So Leng Shiqi did not want to go up and look for trouble. He stared at Hong Guangji because he was waiting for something. Calculating the time, Nine Leave should have started to take action. No matter whether she succeeded or not, Hong Guangji, the head of the Wind and Thunder Tower, would definitely receive the message from the first elder who guarded the heavenly luck stone of Wind and Thunder. At that time Hong Guangji would definitely react, and Leng Shiqi would have to do something. At this point the entire Wind and Thunder platform fell into a dead silence. The people of Gang Spirit were waiting for Hong Guangji's reply. The people on the Jade platform were either looking around or resting with their eyes closed, while the people on the Wind and Thunder platform were waiting for a good show. Hong Guangji's face had become livid. The reason why he invited those big shots was that he intended to stand up for him. Now no one was willing to stand up for him. Just as Hong Guangji was thinking about what to do, suddenly, his eyes widened and his face changed greatly. Just now he received a message from the first elder, Ji Dong, that someone broke into their treasure pavilion and intended to steal the heavenly luck stone of Wind and Thunder. That was the most precious treasure of the Wind and Thunder Tower, and also the best treasure for practicing the Wind and Thunder formula. It was the foundation of the Wind and Thunder Tower. He had to go there. Hong Guangji hurriedly cupped his hands and said, "Everyone, I'm sorry. Something urgent has happened in our sect. Please excuse me for a moment." Gang Spirit was the first to disagree. He said harshly, "What? Do you want to refuse? Then don't blame us for being rude." At this time Hong Guangji did not want to entangle with them about the evil beast, so he said directly, "After I deal with the matter, I'll give you the evil beast." Gang Spirit was stunned at first. Hong Guangji bowed his head. What happened in the Wind and Thunder Tower? Just when Hong Guangji was about to leave with his disciples, Leng Shiqi spoke. Chapter 4:15. Leng Shiqi walked to the edge of the jade platform and said loudly, "Sect Master Hong, there's something I don't know if I should say." Hong Guangji, who was about to leave with his people, paused. He didn't expect Leng Shiqi to speak at this crucial moment. However, Leng Shiqi was an important guest that he personally invited and was also the supervisor of the Dark Thunder Guards. He still had to give him some face. Hong Guangji suppressed the anxiety in his heart and said, "Lord Lu, please speak your mind." "Sect Master Hong, the reason why we came to the Wind Thunder Tower is to see the true face of the demon beast and to witness the beheading of the demon beast in front of everyone to comfort the souls of the innocent people who died in the hands of the demon beast. However, if Sect Master Hong gave the demon beast away so easily, wouldn't this demon slaughter assembly become a joke? Did you ask us to come here just to watch a joke?" When Leng Shiqi said this, the entire place was in an uproar. First, it was the lower-level spirit cultivators in the Wind Thunder platform. They were also the ones with the most numbers. They were the first to be unhappy. "Lord Lu is right. We came all the way to the Wind Thunder Tower to watch the execution of the demon beast. In the blink of an eye, you gave the demon beast away. Then why are we here?" "That's right. We came because we gave the Wind Thunder Tower face. Yet you left us here. What kind of logic is this?" The entire Wind Thunder platform instantly became noisy. Almost everyone was expressing their dissatisfaction towards the Wind Thunder Tower. Man Tiangang and the others didn't say anything because they were a little surprised and doubtful. They were clearly the main characters today. Why did no one pay attention to them all of a sudden? Hong Guangji didn't bother with them anymore and directly gave the demon beast to them. Man Tiangang should be very happy, but now he felt a little strange. However, seeing Hong Guangji being condemned by everyone, he was still secretly happy. King Tai looked at Leng Shiqi and a trace of doubt flashed across his eyes. He wanted Leng Shiqi to speak for him. However, seeing that Hong Guangji had already retreated, although King Tai didn't know the reason, the Wind Thunder Tower and the Heavenly Cripple Union shouldn't be fighting today. King Tai's mission was also completed. However, Leng Shiqi's actions were equivalent to humiliating the Wind Thunder Tower. It was considered to be going against the Wind Thunder Tower. This made him feel surprised. The people on the Jade stage were even more surprised. Leng Shiqi's actions undoubtedly implicated the Wind Thunder Tower. Even if Leng Shiqi was the great supervisor, there was no need to offend a second-rate sect for no reason. Of course, the most surprised and angry. Now he was rushing to the treasure pavilion. However, Leng Shiqi's words made Hong Guangji the target of public criticism. Now, facing public anger, he definitely couldn't just leave. However, Hong Guangji didn't know why Leng Shiqi did this. The Wind Thunder Tower and the Dark Thunder Guards had always minded their own business. Hong Guangji didn't target Leng Shiqi and even gave Leng Shiqi enough face. However, if he stayed here for a moment longer, the Wind Thunder Godly Luck Stone might be lost. He was extremely anxious. He could only secretly remember this grudge and said in a deep voice, "Fellow cultivators, this is indeed the fault of the Wind Thunder Tower. I apologize to everyone here. However, our sect does have an extremely urgent matter to deal with. Please forgive us." At this point, Hong Guangji hesitated slightly and said, "Disciples, listen up. Quickly head to the treasure pavilion." Treasure pavilion? When everyone heard these three words, they finally understood. Something had happened to the treasure pavilion of the Wind Thunder Tower. That was why Hong Guangji was so anxious and even gave up the demonic beast. He didn't even care about the demonic slaughtering meat. In this way, many people could understand the reason behind his actions. However, they were also very curious. Who dared to have designs on the treasure pavilion of the Wind Thunder Tower? Leng Shiqi saw that Hong Guangji was about to leave and said, "I see. I misunderstood Sect Master Hong. I'm really sorry. Something has happened to your sect. I'm willing to help Sect Master Hong. I hope Sect Master Hong doesn't mind my low cultivation." Hong Guangji stopped in his tracks. He couldn't guess what Leng Shiqi was planning. However, at this time he couldn't be bothered to guess what Leng Shiqi was thinking. He nodded and said, "Lord Lu, thank you so much. I can't thank you enough." With that, he led the Wind Thunder Tower disciples and rushed to the treasure pavilion. Leng Shiqi mixed in with the crowd and followed. As for the remaining people, some felt that they didn't see what they wanted and left. There were also people who were curious about what happened to the treasure pavilion of the Wind Thunder Tower. They stayed here and waited for the results. The Sky Stem people were a little embarrassed. Hong Guangji agreed to give them the demonic beast. However, most of the Wind Thunder Tower disciples weren't here. There wasn't even anyone to greet them. They could only continue to stay here and wait for the matter to end before asking for the demonic beasts. Wang Tai's eyes flickered. In the end, he also chose to stay here. After all, the grudge between the Wind Thunder Tower and the Heavenly Cripple Union hadn't been resolved. He couldn't leave in peace. As for the people on the Jade platform, they all left. They didn't stand up for Hong Guangji earlier. Now they didn't have the face to sit here. On the other side, Leng Shiqi followed the Wind Thunder Tower disciples and quickly rushed to the treasure pavilion. He delayed Hong Guangji for a while just now. He didn't know if Nine Leaves succeeded. When everyone arrived at the treasure pavilion, they saw a corner of the treasure pavilion suddenly explode. Boom! With a loud sound, a scorpion-like demonic beast with purple light flowing around its body rushed into the distance at an extremely fast speed. Following closely behind him was an old man who had lost half of his sleeves. He was the Grand Elder of the Wind Thunder Tower, Ji Dong. Ji Dong rushed out of the treasure pavilion and saw Hong Guangji and his disciples. He quickly shouted, "Quick chase! That demonic beast stole the Wind Thunder Heavenly Lux Stone." What? All the disciples of the Wind Thunder Tower, including Hong Guangji, were shocked. Even Hong Guangji, a master at the later stage of Gang Spirit Realm, was a little panicked. The thing he was most worried about still happened. However, he didn't expect that the one who stole the Wind Thunder Heavenly Lux Stone was actually the demonic beast he caught. Previously, Ji Dong only transmitted a message to him, saying that someone broke into the treasure pavilion to steal the Wind Thunder Heavenly Lux Stone. However, he didn't have time to say who it was. Hong Guangji was shocked and angry. Shouldn't that demonic beast be trapped in the underground formation? When did it run out? However, he immediately calmed down and shouted, "All disciples of Celestial Realm, follow me to kill this demonic beast." Immediately, dozens of people left the crowd and chased after Nine Leaf. Nine Leaf's voice also appeared in Leng Shiqi's mind. "The formation in this treasure pavilion is extremely powerful. I'm injured. Come and help me later." Chapter 416. Nine Leaf had really succeeded. Leng Shiqi was secretly delighted. He saw Hong Guangji and Ji Dong leading dozens of disciples of the Celestial Realm to chase after Nine Leaf, but no one paid attention to him. He silently withdrew from the crowd and walked in the direction of the Wind Thunder platform. However, when he was halfway there, he activated the supercilious eye. Seeing that there was no one around, he sank into the ground and hid first. Then he began to try to contact Nine Leaf, but Nine Leaf did not respond at all. He must be trying his best to escape. Nine Leaf needed help, but Leng Shiqi did not have the ability to face two Spirit Gang Realm Masters and dozens of Celestial Realm Spirit Cultivators at the same time. Therefore he could only use his wits. Then Leng Shiqi activated the Fate skill. In the system map he immediately saw Nine Leaf, Hong Guangji and others. In terms of speed, Nine Leaf might be injured, so his speed was not as fast as Hong Guangji and Ji Dong. It would not take long for the two to catch up. Although Leng Shiqi knew that Nine Leaf had many secret skills, he could not help but be a little worried. If something really happened to Nine Leaf, that part of his soul would disappear forever. Leng Shiqi did not care whether Nine Leaf could sense his news or not. He immediately sent a message to Nine Leaf, and then the three-colored light flashed around him and he disappeared. In the back mountain of the Wind Thunder Tower, a group of masters were chasing after Nine Leaf. Hong Guangji and Ji Dong were the fastest, and they were both shocked and angry. If Nine Leaf really escaped with the Wind Thunder Heavenly Lux Stone today, then their Wind Thunder Tower would become a laughingstock in the North County, and even in the entire West Wilderness County. The demonic beast that they had personally captured had stolen their sect's most precious treasure. How could this matter of shooting oneself in the foot not become a laughingstock? Therefore the two of them were also doing their best to chase after him. The Wind Thunder Tower's cultivation method could trigger the power of wind and thunder. They were extremely fast and were about to catch up with Nine Leaf. However, at this moment, Nine Leaf raised his hand and threw out the Wind Thunder Heavenly Lux Stone. With Nine Leaf's power, the Wind Thunder Heavenly Lux Stone was like a meteor shooting through the sky. Hong Guangji and Ji Dong looked at each other with joy in their eyes. They knew that the demonic beast couldn't hold on any longer, which was why it came up with this plan. It wanted to give up on the Wind and Thunder Divine Lux Stone to separate the two of them in order to survive. Hong Guangji immediately said, "Junior brother Ji, go get the Wind Thunder Divine Lux Stone. I must kill this demonic beast with my own hands." This demon's methods are strange and hard to guard against. Senior brother, you must be careful. After Ji Dong finished speaking, he separated from Hong Guangji and chased after the Wind Thunder Divine Luck Stone. In the distance, the Wind Thunder God's Luck Stone was about to land. At this moment, a person in pitch-black armor and bathed in tricolored spirit light suddenly appeared. He reached out and caught the Wind Thunder Godly Luck Stone. This person was naturally Lung Shiqi. When the Wind Thunder God Stone entered his hand, Lung Shiqi felt a strange power coming from his hand. This power seemed to contain several different attributes, including the wind attribute, the thunder attribute, and a mysterious power. However, now was not the time for Lung Shiqi to study the Wind Thunder God's Luck Stone. He immediately stored it in the system space. Who dares to touch the Wind Thunder Godly Luck Stone? It was also at this moment that Ji Dong's voice reverberated like thunder. Ji Dong's speed was indeed very fast. When he arrived, he happened to see Lung Shiqi put away the Wind Thunder God's Luck Stone. He was immediately furious. It turned out that the demonic beast had a helper. However, when Ji Dong discovered that Lung Shiqi was only in the spirit aperture realm, his killing intent soared. He waved his hands and the wind and clouds suddenly surged between heaven and earth. Lightning flashed in the clouds. Then an invisible hurricane blew up, and this hurricane was full of countless wind-cutting spirit gang. Thunder flashed in the sky, and the Wind Thunder Spirit Gang led the thunder of heaven and earth to form a lightning python that struck down. This Ji Dong was actually a Spirit Gang realm spirit caster. Facing this terrifying attack, a blood mark suddenly appeared on Lung Shiqi's forehead, and his aura instantly soared to the late stage of the spirit aperture realm. He used the ghost steps of the nether spring and dodged back and forth between the wind blades and the lightning pythons like a spirit of the underworld. At the same time, he held a 5th-level spirit sword in his hand, and the blade was stained with layers of blood. Blood evil chi surged up, shattering the lightning and wind blades one after another. Seeing this, Ji Dong's heart could not help but be surprised. The cultivation of the person who suddenly appeared was not high. Under his attack, he seemed to be struggling to survive, but in fact he was not injured at all. Even a spirit cultivator in the early stage of the spirit aperture realm might not be able to take this move unscathed, but he was not injured at all. Doubts appeared in Ji Dong's mind. Who was this person? To be able to have such a powerful combat strength in the spirit aperture realm? His background was definitely not simple. However, no matter who the other party was, he must die today. Ji Dong's hands quickly formed a seal, and a waning moon completely condensed from wind blades appeared. Immediately, the waning moon burst with lightning. At this moment, he had perfectly merged the power of wind and thunder together. The waning moon of wind and thunder tore the sky directly, and in an instant, it was in front of Lung Shiqi. Lung Shiqi's eyes narrowed, and he opened his supercilious eyes to look for the flaws. Then he held a 5th-level spirit sword, and when the waning moon of wind and thunder was in front of him, the spirit sword was unsheathed. In an instant, a blood-colored sword light shone between heaven and earth, and a strong blood evil chi soared into the sky. Endless sword intent broke out from it, and it actually shattered the waning moon of wind and thunder. However, the 5th-level spirit sword in Lung Shiqi's hand was also broken. Even the 5th-level spirit sword could not withstand the power of the sword, so one could imagine how strong this sword was. At this moment, Ji Dong's pupils shrank, because there was an invisible blade breaking into his spiritual space. It was a sword light that shook his spiritual space in an instant. Ji Dong hurriedly mobilized all his spiritual power to resist and wear down the sword light. With his spiritual power in the middle stage of Spirit Gang realm, in the end he consumed 60% of his spiritual power to block it. At this time he still had a little lingering fear. If he was not a spirit caster but an ordinary spirit cultivator, his spiritual power would have been damaged by this sword. However, when Ji Dong withdrew his mind, there was no trace of Lung Shiqi nearby. Ji Dong's old face was gloomy like the sea that was about to set off a tsunami, and a terrifying power would erupt at any time. At the same time, he was even more surprised by Lung Shiqi's strength. The waning moon of wind and thunder was his full strength, and it was also one of his famous skills. Even spirit cultivators of the same level had to be very careful when dealing with it. But now, it was blocked by a person in the spirit aperture realm with only one sword. Not only was it blocked, but it also attacked his spiritual space. This even made him start to doubt his life. Chapter 417. Of course, Leng Shiqi wasn't as relaxed as Ji Dong had imagined. The divine ephemeral epiphyllum he had just used had been supplemented with the newly learned art of resisting fiend. That saber strike, on top of the original foundation, contained his fiendish aura, and had taken away more than half of the blood essence in his body. Only then was he able to block Ji Dong's attack and take the opportunity to escape. Originally, Leng Shiqi planned to return to Hanzhou City directly. But now that his identity was different, he couldn't disappear for no reason. Furthermore, Guan Feihong was still in the Wind and Thunder Tower, so he had to return to the tower first and show his face in front of everyone. Furthermore, Leng Shiqi used the demonic beast blood rune armor to cover his face and didn't use the ink jade sword or demon arrival battle blade. He wasn't afraid of being recognized. As for Nine Leaf, he wasn't worried. Only Hong Guangji was chasing after Nine Leaf. With Nine Leaf's ability, he would definitely be able to escape. Ji Dong definitely didn't expect that the person who took away the Wind and Thunder Divine Luck Stone would return to the Wind and Thunder Tower. But at this moment, Ji Dong's face was sinister and his eyes were filled with killing intent. However, he was helpless and could only meet up with Hong Guangji. When Ji Dong found his disciples, Hong Guangji still hadn't returned. After waiting for a long time, he finally returned. But when Ji Dong saw that Hong Guangji's face was also very ugly, Ji Dong's heart sank. Hong Guangji said solemnly, "Sigh, that demonic beast was too cunning and proficient in illusion techniques. It escaped. But it's good that we can get the Wind and Thunder Divine Luck Stone back." Ji Dong opened his mouth but couldn't say anything. He was too ashamed to say that the Wind and Thunder Divine Luck Stone was taken away by a Spirit Aperture Realm cultivator. Seeing him like this, Hong Guangji had a bad premonition. He hurriedly asked, "Junior brother Ji, where's the Wind and Thunder Divine Luck Stone?" Ji Dong's face turned red and said, "That demonic beast had an accomplice. The Wind and Thunder Divine Luck Stone was stolen." "What?" Hong Guangji roared in shock. Who is it? Who is it?" "I don't know either. That person's entire body was covered, but he cultivates demonic arts. He should be from some demonic sect." Ji Dong shook his head. Hong Guangji said in surprise, "Demonic cultivator? But there are only a few evil cultivation sects in the whole Western Wilderness Prefecture, and I have never heard of a Gang Spirit Realm evil cultivator. Where did this one come from?" Ji Dong clenched his teeth and said, "Senior brother, that person is at the Spirit Aperture Realm." Hong Guangji's eyes immediately turned cold when he heard that. He stared at Ji Dong with suspicion. Who would believe that Ji Dong, a spiritual caster in the middle stage of Gang Spirit Realm, could not defeat a person in Spiritual Aperture Realm? Noticing that Hong Guangji's gaze was not right, Ji Dong laughed bitterly and said, "Senior brother sect leader, I've already done my best." However, although that demonic cultivator's cultivation was only at the Spirit Aperture Realm, his strength was extremely strong. He also knows an abnormally powerful saber art. Not only did he block my Wind, Thunder, Falling Stars and Moon, he even secretly attacked my spiritual space. If it wasn't for my strong mental strength, I'm afraid my spiritual body would have been injured. Hong Guangji's first thought was that it was impossible. However, when he saw the sincerity in Ji Dong's eyes, he began to waver. Hong Guangji and Ji Dong had been brothers for decades, and they were also the ones who supported the current Wind Thunder Tower. And Ji Dong had never been greedy for power and wealth, so he took the initiative to guard the treasure pavilion. It was impossible for such a person to collude with outsiders to steal the Wind Thunder Heavenly Luck Stone. Then again, if Ji Dong really wanted to monopolize the Wind Thunder Heavenly Luck Stone, he didn't have to go through so much trouble. Thinking of this, Hong Guangji's gaze was no longer so aggressive, but filled with endless distress. Up to now, they not only lost the most precious treasure of the sect, but also let the evil beast run away. This time it was simply a double loss. Moreover, Hong Guangji had just promised to give the evil beast to the Heavenly Destruction Alliance, but the evil beast had already run away. How could he explain it to the Heavenly Destruction Alliance? Hong Guangji's Demon Extermination Assembly held today not only provoked the wrath of heaven and people, but also offended many people. There was a huge mess waiting for him to clean up, and he couldn't help but have a splitting headache. However, Hong Guangji had been the sect master for decades, and he quickly thought of some countermeasures. He said to Ji Dong, "Junior brother Ji, your top priority is to track down the whereabouts of the Wind Thunder Heavenly Luck Stone. The most precious treasure of the sect must not be lost." Ji Dong nodded solemnly. "Sect master senior brother, don't worry. I set up a restriction on the Wind Thunder Heavenly Luck Stone. As long as I go back and set up the formation, I will be able to sense its location. That's great. Let's return to the sect first and send the Heavenly Destruction Alliance people back. Hong Guangji then led his disciples back to the Wind Thunder platform. There weren't many people left in the Wind Thunder platform. Other than some of the lower-level disciples of the Wind Thunder Tower and the Sky Stem, there were only a few people left. Originally, there were still some people who were prepared to watch the show, but Hong Guangji and the rest had been gone for so long, and they didn't know when they would return. Everyone couldn't just wait here and do nothing, so they could only leave one by one. However, from then on, the Wind Thunder Tower's reputation plummeted. The only important person left on the Jade platform was King Tai. At this moment he was chatting with Mangon. His mission hadn't been completed, so he couldn't leave yet. Not long later Leng Shiqi returned first. Seeing Leng Shiqi, King Tai, Man Tiangong, and the others immediately looked at him with inquiring eyes. Among everyone, only Leng Shiqi had followed Hong Guangji to the treasure pavilion. Therefore they also wanted to know what had happened to the treasure pavilion of the Wind and Thunder Tower. The Wind Thunder Heavenly Luck Stone was missing. This was the top secret of the Wind Thunder Tower. Leng Shiqi obviously couldn't casually say it. Leng Shiqi walked to King Tai's side and shook his head lightly. I don't know the details. When I arrived, Hong Guangji and Great Elder Ji Dong had already led the experts of the sect to chase after them. However, for them to value it so much, the Wind Thunder Tower must have lost something important. King Tai raised his eyebrows and said, who could break into the treasure pavilion and steal something right under Ji Dong's nose? Leng Shiqi looked at Mangon meaningfully and replied, this matter seems to have something to do with Alliance Chief Man Tiangong turned his head in confusion. How did he get involved in this matter again? Because the one who stole the treasure wasn't a human, but a scorpion-like demonic beast. What did you say? Heavenly Stem immediately exploded. That demonic beast escaped and even stole the treasures of the Wind and Thunder Tower. The people of the Wind Thunder Tower are indeed a bunch of trash. Just as he said this, a large group of disciples of the Wind Thunder Tower walked over under Hong Guangji's lead. Many of them heard his words and all of them glared at him. Chapter 418. Hong Guangji and a large group of Wind Thunder Tower disciples had just rushed back to the Wind Thunder platform when they heard Man Tiangong's words. Everyone was furious. However, Man Tiangong did not care at all. He directly said to Hong Guangji, since you have returned, I believe the matter at the treasure pavilion is over. Then shouldn't you give the demon beast to us now? Alliance leader man, why do you ask when you already know the answer? Hong Guangji's eyes flashed. Man Tiangong snorted coldly. Hong Guangji, you wanted to kill this demon beast in front of everyone to make the Wind Thunder Tower famous. In the end, not only did the demon beast escape, but it also stole your important treasure. Ah, what a joke. If that demon beast had been chased to death by us back then, how would you have ended up like this? Hong Guangji suppressed the anger in his heart and said, Alliance leader man, did you come here just to mock me? The demon beast escaped. I admit that I was careless. Next, we should work together to hunt down this demon. Man Tiangong sneered, work together? When sect leader Hong secretly captured the demon beast, why didn't you think of working together with us? We will catch the demon beast ourselves. However, after we catch it, the things on its body will naturally belong to us. Let's go. Then, Man Tiangong and dozens of experts from the East County strode out of the Wind Thunder platform. From the beginning to the end, they did not give Hong Guangji any face at all. Hong Guangji secretly clenched his fists, but he could not flare up, nor could he get angry. Because he was the one who was in the wrong, and he was the one who went back on his words. Man Tiangong and the others did not pursue the matter and chose to leave. It was already a good ending. If Hong Guangji dared to say a few more words of anger, Man Tiangong would really dare to fight with him. Now, the most important thing for Hong Guangji was to find the Wind Thunder Divine Luck Stone. Seeing Man Tiangong and the others leave, King Tai secretly heaved a sigh of relief. Now that the two sides would not have a conflict for the time being, although he did not play a big role in this trip, he was still very satisfied with the result. King Tai said to Leng Shiqi beside him, Lord Lu, it's time for me to leave. Why don't you come with me? Very well, Leng Shiqi replied. Afterwards, the two of them bid farewell to Hong Guangji. These two were high-ranking members of the Dark Thunder Guard and the Discipline Commission. Out of respect, Hong Guangji still personally saw them off. When they walked out of the gate of Wind and Thunder Watchtower, King Tai said, "Your Excellency Lu has reached the middle stage of Gang Spirit Realm at such a young age and is also the great supervisor. It seems that the Dark Thunder Guard Elite Union of our Western Wilderness Prefecture will belong to you soon." Elite Society? This was the first time Ling Shiqi had heard these words, and he couldn't help but feel a little puzzled. However, he immediately thought of the quota that eunuch Gao had given him a few months ago. If he guessed correctly, it should be the quota for the Elite Association. Unfortunately, Ling Shiqi still doesn't know what this elite does. There happened to be someone here who knew this, so he asked, "Your Excellency King, I'm new here and don't know what this Elite Association is. Please enlighten me, Your Excellency." King Tai was a little surprised at first, but then he nodded with understanding and said, "Your Excellency Lu hasn't been in the Dark Thunder Guard for long, so it's normal that you don't know about the Elite Association. In fact, this Elite Association is a feast for our Thunderfire dynasty. The two most well-known forces of the Thunderfire dynasty are the Dark Thunder Guard and the Discipline Commission. It can be said that these two forces are the right and left arms of the Thunderfire dynasty. In order to maintain the strength and vitality of these two forces, every 10 years, the dynasty will gather the young talents of all provinces and counties together and call it the Elite Association. However, those who can attend the Elite Association are definitely the elites of all provinces and counties. Because there is only one quota for each of the Dark Thunder Guard and the Discipline Commission. That is to say, there are only 2 people in our Western Wilderness Prefecture who are qualified to attend the Elite Association. It's a pity that I failed to get this quota when I was young, so I really yearn for the Elite Association. I think Your Excellency Lu is very promising." Hearing these words, Ling Shiqi thought to himself that so it was like this. At the same time, he also understood why Yu Ruifeng revealed such a shocked expression when eunuch Gao gave him the quota. According to King Tai, there was only one quota for the Dark Thunder Guard, and eunuch Gao directly gave it to Ling Shiqi. How could Yu Ruifeng not be shocked? Of the 36 provinces of the Thunderfire dynasty, apart from the Imperial City, 35 of them had branches of the Dark Thunder Guard and the Discipline Commission. This also meant that there were a total of 70 people participating in the Elite Association. These 70 people were the future of the Dark Thunder Guard and the Discipline Commission. And Ling Shiqi was one of them. He said modestly, "From what Your Excellency Wang said, this Elite Association is indeed worthy of its reputation. However, there are many crouching tigers and hidden dragons in the Dark Thunder Guard. Even if I wanted to, I might not have the ability. Your Excellency Lu is too modest. In the past, most of the people who went to the Elite Association were at the Spirit Aperture Realm, but there has never been a Spirit Aperture Realm supervisor or commissioner. Your Excellency Lu is the first, so the quota for the Dark Thunder Guard will be yours if nothing unexpected happens." "Haha, then I will borrow Brother Wang's auspicious words," Ling Shiqi said with a smile. The two chatted as they walked. Although they were talking about some superficial things, Ling Shiqi still received some benefits. Not long after, the two parted ways. After Ling Shiqi and Guan Feihong returned to Hanzhou City, he directly went into his room and prepared to study the Wind Thunder Divine Luck Stone. However, just as he took out the treasure, there was a sound beside him, which scared him so much that he quickly put away the Wind Thunder Divine Luck Stone. He turned around and saw that 9 Leaf had already appeared in the room at some point. It was also at this moment that Ji Dong was seated within an extremely complicated formation in the treasure hall of the Wind Thunder Tower. There was a disc floating in front of him and there was something like a pointer on the disc. This formation was the one that could sense the Wind Thunder Divine Luck Stone. Ji Dong's hands formed seals and sent out rays of spirit light. The disc in front of him also began to spin. Ji Dong's eyes stared at the pointer, but after a long time, the pointer did not seem to have any intention of stopping. Ji Dong frowned when he saw this scene, and his eyes revealed traces of surprise. This situation meant that even this formation could not sense the location of the Wind Thunder Divine Luck Stone. Could it be that the distance is too far? That shouldn't be. As long as the Wind Thunder Divine Luck Stone does not leave the Western Desolate Province, it should be able to sense it. Just as Ji Dong was puzzled, he suddenly realized that the pointer had stopped. However, he only took a glance and the pointer actually began to spin again. Although he did not know what was going on, the pointer did sense the direction of the Wind Thunder Divine Luck Stone. Chapter 419. In the Dark Thunder residence of Hanzhou City, Nine Leaf said anxiously as soon as he appeared, "Don't take out the wind thunder godly luck stone rashly." Hearing this, Leng Shiqi's heart tightened. "Senior Nine Leaf, is there something fishy about the wind thunder godly luck stone?" "Yes, there's a sensing restriction on it. Even if it's thousands of miles away, it can be sensed by the wind thunder tower," Nine Leaf explained. "Fortunately, you only took it out for a moment, so it should be fine." Leng Shiqi's eyes flashed and he asked seriously, "Will the wind thunder godly luck stone be sensed if it's placed in the mustard seed bag?" Don't underestimate the wind thunder tower's ability. This stone is their most precious treasure and they spent a lot of effort on it. So even if it's placed in the mustard seed bag, it will still be sensed. But, don't you have an even more hidden space treasure? Speaking of this, Nine Leaf's tone became a little meaningful, but Leng Shiqi pretended not to hear it. He had been with Nine Leaf for so long, so it was not strange that Nine Leaf could guess that he had another kind of storage space. Leng Shiqi said, "Then what should we do next? Can we not take out the wind thunder godly luck stone forever?" "Of course there is a way. I can use the power of the soul to isolate the wind thunder godly luck stone, but I'm seriously injured now, so I have to recuperate for a while." Nine Leaf had gone through a series of battles and was now riddled with scars, so he really needed to recuperate first. Leng Shiqi nodded. "That's right. I'll have someone prepare the resources for healing later." "Okay, I'll leave it to you." Nine Leaf showed a trace of satisfaction. "As a reward, after removing the restriction on the wind thunder godly luck stone, I can give it to you to refine for 3 days. 3 days? Leng Shiqi was a little surprised when he heard this. The wind thunder godly luck stone contained a large amount of extremely pure wind and thunder power. If he could refine a part of it, it would be very convenient when he broke through to the astral spirit realm and condensed astral spirit. What's more, it was said that this treasure also contained a trace of luck power. Although it was only a legend, who knew if it could be refined? Luck was an illusory concept, but Leng Shiqi knew that luck was actually very important. Not only could it avoid misfortune, but it could also be more compatible with heaven and earth. He had only paid some resources for Nine Leaf to recuperate, and in exchange he could refine Nine Leaf for 3 days. Could be said to be a very good deal. Next, Nine Leaf first used a secret technique to hide his figure, while Leng Shiqi personally went to the treasury. Ever since he was promoted to the great supervisor, he had never been here before. When he walked in, he was stunned because the treasury was almost filled to the brim with dazzling resources. Leng Shiqi himself did not know that he was so rich. However, Leng Shiqi thought for a moment and understood. Hanzhou City's Dark Thunder Manor had plenty of resources. Even though Duan Chun had taken a portion of them with him when he left, there was still plenty left. In addition to the goods transported from Misty Chi City and Deer Marshal City's Dark Thunder Manor, it was reasonable for them to have such a scale. Although there were a lot of resources, Leng Shiqi could not casually take them. Right now, he could be considered to have a large family business. Not to mention other things, just the Dark Thunder Manor in Hanzhou City alone had a few hundred people that needed him to feed them. The resources in front of him were the capital to feed these people. Next, Leng Shiqi began to choose the resources for Nine Leaf to recuperate, but at this time he suddenly remembered something. That was the system map. After he obtained a portion of the system's authority, he only needed to spend 10,000 system coins to fully open the system map. Before this, Leng Shiqi had specially left 5,000 system coins to save up for opening the system map. However, after he came out of seclusion, he had not been idle. Especially in the past few days, because his subordinates were not completely familiar with the Dark Thunder Envoy's affairs, there were many things that he had to personally decide, so he was very busy. Now that he had entered the treasury, he remembered this matter. Thus, after Leng Shiqi took some resources for recuperation, he also gathered a large number of resources that were not used often and sold them all to the system for 5,000 system coins. Seeing that the resources in the treasury had decreased by less than half in the blink of an eye, Leng Shiqi did not know whether to laugh or cry. He was stuffing his own pockets so much that his pockets were about to burst. However, he was not too worried. In another half a month, the offerings from Misty Chi City, Deer Marshal City, and 10 other cities would be transported again. At that time, the deficit would naturally be made up for. Leng Shiqi also planned to wait for a period of time until everything stabilized before opening a trade route in Hanzhou City. At that time, there would definitely be more resources coming in. After Leng Shiqi brought a large number of resources to Nine Leaf, she directly began to recuperate in her room without any fear of Leng Shiqi. Leng Shiqi rubbed his nose. Although Nine Leaf was still in the body of a demonic beast, she was a genuine demoness. Furthermore, she was a demoness that could bring disaster to a country. In the past, when Nine Leaves' soul lived in his spiritual fantasy world, Leng Shiqi did not feel much, but now that they were squeezed in this room he felt a little awkward. The most important thing was that he had too many secrets. With Nine Leaves by his side he would have a lot of inconveniences. Leng Shiqi looked at Nine Leaves and saw that she had already entered a meditative state, so he withdrew his thoughts and silently opened the system. He directly opened the system map and clicked on the words Open Map. Opening the system map requires 10,000 system coins. Do you want to open it? Leng Shiqi secretly took a deep breath and chose Yes. Immediately after, the entire system map trembled, and then the map began to shrink again. The system map was infinitely zoomed, and Leng Shiqi's pupils gradually contracted. The surprise and shock in his eyes grew stronger and stronger, and he even began to doubt his own eyes. When the system map calmed down, Leng Shiqi was actually stunned for a long time. He was now in the Thunderfire dynasty. He had been to the easternmost Donglin county of the dynasty, and also the demonic Miasma mountain range to the north. Now he was sitting in the westernmost Shihuang county. It could be said that Leng Shiqi already spanned the east and west sides of the Thunderfire dynasty, so he could roughly estimate the size of the Thunderfire dynasty from the system map. Originally he thought that the Thunderfire dynasty was already very big, but at this moment when the system map was opened, the entire Thunderfire dynasty was just a small white dot on the map. A great country in this world was not even 1,000th of it. Even the Falling Star continent was nothing. In the current map, it seemed more appropriate to call this continent an island. There was only one thought in Leng Shiqi's mind: just how big is this world? Chapter 420. Leng Shiqi was in a daze in the room for a long time. After a long time, Leng Shiqi let out a long breath. He looked up. Although he could only see the roof, his eyes pierced through the clouds as if he could see through the 9 heavens. Leng Shiqi's eyes were full of determination. This time the system map was fully opened. Although it did not increase his strength, it opened the door to a new world for him. It made him realize how vast and boundless this world was, and how splendid it was. It also made Leng Shiqi's vision and situation change dramatically. Blood Clothing Pavilion, Lioha Spiritual Region, Thunderfire Dynasty. These were called top and extraordinary forces. They could indeed dominate a region, but in this world they were nothing. Originally, Leng Shiqi's requirement for himself was to become a powerhouse that could dominate a region. However, at this moment he had a higher goal. He wanted to stand among the powerhouses of this world. He wanted to climb to the peak of this world. Now, Leng Shiqi's pursuit of power was even more fervent, and he did not dare to slack off. He also knew that if he wanted to reach the goal in his heart, he had to slowly walk up one step at a time. Immediately he set up the Yin-Yang Spirit Gathering formation and immersed himself in cultivation. In the next few days, Leng Shiqi began to gradually hand over the matters to Guan Feihong, Qiu Cheng and the others. He used all the time he saved to cultivate. During this period he was also constantly deducing spiritual skills and improving his strength at all times. It was not until half a month later that Nine Leaves' injuries finally improved. Of course, his injuries had not fully recovered. After all, he had been chased by the forces of the East County Hongguangji and Jidong. His external injuries had basically healed, but his internal injuries still needed to be slowly healed. However, Nine Leaf could already use a secret technique to isolate the restriction on the Wind Thunder Divine Luck Stone. Nine Leaf said solemnly, "I will first set up an aura isolating formation around the room just in case. If you have any methods you can use them. After setting it up, when I'm about to complete the technique, you can take out the Wind Thunder Divine Luck Stone." Leng Shiqi nodded to indicate that he understood. Nine Leaves' claws flicked repeatedly, and streams of purple light shot out like a fairy scattering flowers, weaving into a magnificent purple net in the room. Leng Shiqi, on the other hand, was much simpler. Although he did not know any formations or restrictions, he had goo worms. He consecutively released dozens of goo worms to crawl to the 4 corners of the room. Those goo worms opened their mouths and spat out a layer of faint gray mist, enveloping the entire room from the inside. Nine Leaf glanced sideways at Leng Shiqi and said, "I knew there was a strange aura in your body. It turns out that it's these little bugs. These are goo worms. I obtained some when I was in Zhulu country. They are not very strong in direct combat, but they have some wonderful uses," Leng Shiqi explained. Yes, your battle prowess is superb, but you have almost no other support abilities. With the help of these goo worms, it is indeed not bad. Alright, let's begin. At this point, Nine Leaves' expression became even more solemn. Shortly after, Nine Leaves' soul body left her body, and her hands flew, sending out a series of mysterious seals. After a short while, Nine Leaves' soul body was a little weak and she finally said, "Quick." Lung Shichi's heart moved, and the Wind Thunder Divine Luck Stone appeared in his hand. Once this treasure appeared, it immediately floated into the air. At the same time, Nine Leaf pushed her hands, and those mysterious seals poured into the Wind Thunder Divine Luck Stone. In an instant, the Wind Thunder Divine Luck Stone burst out with a bright purple light. It was the power of wind and thunder. But these wind and thunder powers were instantly suppressed by Nine Leaves' seals. After the two were in a stalemate for a dozen breaths of time, the wind and thunder powers were completely defeated. At this time, the Wind Thunder Divine Luck Stone had no special characteristics. At first glance, it looked no different from an ordinary stone. Lung Shichi and Nine Leaf looked at each other and thought at the same time, "It's done. According to what we said before, I'll let you refine the Wind Thunder Divine Luck Stone for 3 days. After 3 days I'll swallow it directly." With that, Nine Leaves' soul returned to her body, and she closed her eyes to rest. Lung Shichi picked up the Wind Thunder Divine Luck Stone and was about to carefully examine it when Nine Leaves' eyes suddenly opened. She said eerily, "Don't you dare play any tricks. I don't want something like the Heavenly Fey Soul Crystal to happen a second time." Lung Shichi couldn't help but smile bitterly. "Senior, don't worry. I'll return it in 3 days. Besides, you're right beside me. Are you afraid I'll play any tricks?" Humph. This time Nine Leaf really closed her eyes to rest. After all, she had some internal injuries that needed to be healed. Lung Shichi first held the Wind Thunder Divine Luck Stone and sized it up. He hadn't been idle these days. He ordered people to find all the information about the Wind Thunder Divine Luck Stone in Dark Thunder Manor and Bloodcloak Pavilion. He knew that the reason why the Wind Thunder Tower regarded it as the most precious treasure was that it contained a trace of congenital wind power and congenital thunder power. It was said that this treasure was born at the beginning of the world. It was originally an ordinary stone, but at the moment when the world was formed, it accidentally absorbed a trace of congenital power. After countless years, the congenital power contained in it was so thin that it almost didn't exist. But even so, it was enough to support a second-rate force like the Wind Thunder Tower. Once someone in the Wind Thunder Tower broke through to Gang Spirit Realm, they could use this treasure to condense congenital wind and congenital thunder spiritual Gang Chi. With the help of the wind and thunder technique, they could be the best in the same level. Now the Wind Thunder Divine Luck Stone was in Lung Shichi's hands. Unfortunately, he didn't cultivate the power of wind thunder, so he could only absorb the power of wind and thunder very roughly. But even so, it could lay a solid foundation for him to break through to Gang Spirit Realm and condense Gang Spirit in the future. So Lung Shichi didn't think much and directly began to absorb the power of wind and thunder. Just as Lung Shichi began to refine the Wind Thunder Divine Luck Stone, Ji Dong, who was in the treasure room of the Wind Thunder Tower, was staring at the round plate in front of him with a pale face and sweating forehead. There were several spirit cultivators in the Spirit Aperture Realm sitting around Ji Dong. Each of them was trying their best to transfer spiritual power to Ji Dong, because Ji Dong had been maintaining this formation for half a month. Even though he had the cultivation of the middle stage of Gang Spirit Realm, he couldn't maintain a formation for a long time. But in order to sense the position of the Wind Thunder Divine Luck Stone at all times, he couldn't stop. So he had to let his disciples take turns to transfer spiritual power to him. And at this time, the needle in the round plate suddenly stopped and pointed in a certain direction. Ji Dong's exhausted eyes finally showed some joy, but then the whole round plate suddenly collapsed and burst. Puff! Ji Dong spat out a mouthful of blood and then fainted. His face was full of disbelief. Chapter 421. 3 days passed quickly. During these 3 days, Lung Shichi kept refining the Wind and Thunder Heavenly Luck Stone. He absorbed a lot of wind and thunder power from it and stored it in his body. The wind and thunder power could be used to defend against enemies, and it could also help him condense spiritual highland in the future. However, these powers were like water without roots. Every bit he used was a bit less, so he couldn't use them casually. In addition, Lung Shichi felt it was a pity that he didn't feel the mysterious power of luck from the Wind and Thunder Heavenly Luck Stone. Perhaps the wind and thunder heavenly luck stone didn't have such power at all. Even if it did, it would have been studied by the people of the Wind and Thunder Tower. When the 3 days were up, Nine Leaf woke up on time. She didn't say anything and directly sucked the Wind Thunder God's luck stone into her mouth. Then she burped and closed her eyes again. Lung Shichi didn't care. He stretched his body and walked out of the door. Then he walked towards the meeting hall. In these 3 days, he ordered that no one should disturb him, so he was going to see if there was anything important to deal with. However, as soon as he walked out of his courtyard, he saw Guan Feihong walking towards him with a little anxiousness. "Old Guan, what's the matter?" Lung Shichi asked with a slight frown. Hong Guangji cupped his hands and said, "My lord, yesterday Lord Yu sent a message asking you to go to the western wilderness city to see him. He said there's something important." Lung Shichi immediately thought of the elite society that King Tai mentioned. He guessed that Yu Ruifeng wanted him to go to the elite society. Therefore, he was afraid that he would not be able to return in a short period of time. He still had to make some arrangements. It had been more than 20 days since he became the great supervisor. Whether it was the Dark Lightning Envoy or the Blood Clothing Pavilion Assassins, they were all familiar with the various tasks of the Dark Lightning Guards. The other supervisors were all very honest, so it was easy to make arrangements in this regard. Lung Shichi was most concerned about Nine Leaf now. Back in Donglin County, after Lung Shichi entered the Mirage Spirit Mystic Realm, Nine Leaf had provoked a second-rate force, Extreme Fire Manor, and was hunted down. Fortunately, when the secret realm collapsed, most of the experts who were chasing after her had turned back. Not long ago, Nine Leaf had wreaked havoc in the East County and was pursued by a large number of East County experts. In the end, she pretended to be captured and hid in the Wind Thunder Tower. However, she was still dishonest and stole the Wind Thunder Tower's most valuable treasure. At this moment, Lung Shichi was thinking about what kind of trouble Nine Leaf would stir up when he returned from the elite meeting. However, it wasn't convenient for him to bring Jiu out of the elite club, not to mention that he had too many secrets. The demonic aura on Nine Leaf's body definitely couldn't be hidden from the many experts. If there was another demonic slaughtering assembly, it would be a good show. Therefore, Lung Shichi had to first consult Nine Leaf's opinion. Later, Lung Shichi summoned several Dark Thunder emissaries and told them everything. Then he returned to the room and woke Nine Leaf up. "Senior Nine Leaf, I may leave for a while. What's your plan?" Nine Leaf opened his eyes and rolled them like a human, saying, "I'll go with you." Lung Shichi obviously didn't expect Nine Leaf to make a decision so quickly, but he was also worried. "Senior, I'm going to attend a gathering this time. I'm afraid I'll meet many experts above the gang spirit realm." "It doesn't matter." Nine Leaf shook his head and said, "I've swallowed a lot of precious resources recently, especially the Wind Thunder Divine Stone, which contains a lot of power. I'm on the verge of advancement. As long as I completely refine the Wind Thunder Divine Stone, I can almost advance. At that time, my soul will fall into a deep sleep. As long as you keep my body well, no one will notice it." Lung Shichi was shocked at first. Nine Leaf was going to advance again? He clearly remembered that the last time Nine Leaf advanced to a rank 4 demonic beast was a few months ago. In just a few months, Nine Leaf was going to advance again. It could be imagined that she must have swallowed countless precious resources during this time. Even Lung Shichi couldn't help feeling sympathy for those forces in the East County. Lung Shichi was surprised but also relieved. Nine Leaf would enter a deep sleep state when she advanced to a rank 5 demonic beast. Even if he took her with him, he didn't have to worry about her spying on his secrets, nor did he have to worry about her being noticed by others. For Lung Shichi, this was the perfect situation. Before leaving, Lung Shichi went to the treasury again. In the past 2 days, resources from all over the country had been gathered, and the treasury was full again. Of course, Lung Shichi came to fill his pockets again. Since he was going to attend this elite gathering, it was inevitable that he would meet all kinds of people. It was much more convenient to go back and forth with more spirit stones and resources. In addition, he also needed to save some system coins in case he needed them. In the end, Lung Shichi left Hanzhou City with 30,000 spirit stones and a large amount of commonly used resources, as well as 3,000 system coins. Hanzhou City was only 3 to 4 days away from Western Desolated City. Because Yu Ruifeng had sent him a message yesterday, Lung Shichi directly used the Fate skill to arrive at Western Desolated City in 2 days. After the system was fully opened, the Fate skill no longer had any restrictions, and he could use it anytime and anywhere. After Lung Shichi saw Yu Ruifeng, he found that his condition was much better, and his cultivation had also returned to the unity of heaven and man realm. However, Yu Ruifeng also found that Leng Shiqi had changed a lot. Leng Shiqi's cultivation didn't increase at all, but it gave Yu Ruifeng the feeling that it was like a bottomless well. Under the calmness and steadiness, it contained a terrifying power. What made Yu Ruifeng even more surprised was that Leng Shiqi's every movement had a trace of an expert's demeanor. The so-called demeanor of an expert wasn't a domineering aura, but the opposite. It was a change in the structure, a sublimation of one's state of mind. A true expert wouldn't care about petty profits, and wouldn't be limited by their horizons, because what they pursued was even greater power. But Yu Ruifeng felt a trace of this from Leng Shiqi. Yu Ruifeng smiled. Eunuch Gao's eyes are indeed sharp. He directly gave you a spot in the elite association, truly a wise eye. Hearing the words elite association, Leng Shiqi knew that it was indeed so. After a few humble words he asked, "Martial uncle, I've only heard of this elite association, but I don't know what it's for. Martial uncle, please enlighten me." The elite association. Yu Ruifeng's eyes flashed with a trace of reminiscence. It's a place that can let you reach the heavens in a single step. Back then, I had the qualifications to sit on the patrol envoy position because I joined the elite association. That you're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.